Watchlist Podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Jacob Boyer. Joined with me, as per the new normal, are my two co-hosts, Jake Domanski and Rob Morrissey. How are you guys doing today?
Rob, at the same time, we are
One,
doing...
two, oh.
Doing well.
Doing well as well.
You should have... That'd be amazing if it was just in perfect unison without practicing. But then I just don't address it. I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's normal behavior from the two of them.
It just moved past it.
We are doing well, Jacob. Thank you for having us again.
You are the most good-looking, strong person we know.
Oh, Jake, stop! Come on, no, you have your good qualities too. You're really good at stand-ups. No, you are
Not
the
as
best.
good as you.
Yeah.
We're both still answering, although you only address me.
We, as a collective, are not as good as you. That's the episode where people tune in and they're like, wow, this Jacob guy's like a real prick. He's like making his friends say this shit about him. That's what it gets known for.
It's like he's like almost brainwashed his friends into saying these phrases.
I don't know what's
so
making me think that, but it sounds like
But
there's
it
been
sounds
some
like-
brainwashing going on. So,
Yeah, I'm
got
excited to talk about these movies that
Yeah.
I totally didn't watch all of them yesterday.
yeah, not in the slightest. So anyone who
No
doesn't
siree.
anyone who doesn't know how this works, this is sort of our monthly movie club. I'm assuming that most people listening to this at this point are more fans of the Buttery Males than this. This might be the new thing since this podcast went away for a while. But how this works is every month we each recommend each other a movie, and then we talk about those movies. So you've had a month now to go out. If you listened to the last episode, you've had a month to go out and listen to the three movies we're going to talk about today. If you haven't seen them yet, you should go listen to them, because we will be spoiling the shit out of them.
Yes, go listen to them.
Go listen to them.
Don't watch them.
Did I say listen to them?
Yes.
Go
And
watch
I'm
them.
never going to forget it,
this is
and I'm never going to let you live it
Because
down.
as we know, this is the listen list cast.
The listen.
Where we recommend audiobooks to each other.
Yeah, and also, to anyone listening who didn't go out and watch the movies, you had a whole month, okay? A whole month.
You have no excuse.
You had no excuse. And that's
Yeah.
what I said to myself yesterday when I got off of work. I had no excuse to not watch these movies. And so I have to watch all three of them
You should have
in a row.
You should have just faked it till you make it. Like even though you've seen Sorcerer, just be like, yeah, Sorcerer. That like the magic that was going on in that movie. Like, oh man, the sorcery.
I love when the
that was
sorcerer
present-
pulls out
yeah.
his crystal ball and his magic staff. And
I really, really liked it when the sorcerer. I don't think he says his name. He pulls out his magic ball and his staff, and he goes, "It's sorcerin' time," and
it's
then everybody
me,
cheers.
sorcerer. And now it's sorcerin' time.
It's cool that it's like the origin story for like most magic users we know of from movies. Like Harry Potter's in that, Gandalf.
It was the crossover event
Dumbledore.
before any of these movies were made.
Spider-Man for
Wizards from
some
the Wizard
reason.
of Oz.
I guess they consider spider powers sorcery.
So yeah,
Well, it's like how Thor and like there are characters in the MCU that use magic, but there's never like that thing of like it's magic. It's always
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, they have superpowers. It's like no,
Mhm.
no, a superpower
Yeah.
isn't shooting lightning out of your hand.
Exactly.
Okay?
The one
Fucking
thing that
magic.
the thing that I kind of like is that about the MCU is just how easily everyone accepts like the new reality presented to them. Like by the end of Avengers 1, you have like Hulk is a science experiment gone wrong. Hawkeye and Black Widow are like they're just good assassin type people. Captain America's another science experiment. Iron Man's just really fucking smart. Thor just has magical powers, and everyone
He's
is
just a
like,
god.
yeah, is just an actual god. And everyone is
Yeah.
like, okay, so God exists, and he is Norse, and
Yeah, he's a white guy.
he is a white guy.
What?
He's a blonde, blue-eyed blonde white guy. Shoots lightning and has a
Holy
magic
shit.
hammer, and
I think the
Well, that's
only
fine.
Fucking
that's all
canceled.
fine for
Yeah,
us.
I think the only line we get about that situation at all in Iron Man 3 is Iron Man's like, God's coming down from the sky. How do I deal with that? Like, that's the only, like, no answer. Just how do I deal with that? How do I deal with like sky portals opening up, actual aliens that have not been confirmed to exist in that universe up to that point coming out, and then there's just a guy who flies around by throwing a hammer, and which that's another side note. There was a I forget what Q&A it was, but Stan Lee like broke down the science behind how Thor is able to fly. And it was meant as like a disc, because he's like, Superman just points his fists in the air and he just starts levitating, but Thor has to spin his hammer around really fast and then throw it while it's wrapped around his wrist, and then the force of the
Oh
hammer
my
flying
gosh.
through the air is what propels him. It's so
Wow.
it's so fucking funny.
That is so stupid.
Yeah.
Well, just the normalcy. This is now the MCU podcast.
This is the MCU
MCU
podcast.
watch list.
Yeah. Go watch
The
all of Phase 1.
normalcy, yeah, go watch it all. The normalcy of it all is very funny to me. I think the best is in the beginning of Endgame, where people are going to like support groups like for the snap
Yeah.
that happened, and it's just like, you all should be way less cool with what's happened.
You
Like,
should all be very traumatized by what
yeah,
happened.
it's like
it's
you,
been
like
yeah,
the
sure,
entire
it's been,
world should be on lithium
yeah,
right now.
It's been
Like,
5 years. It's
you
been
just go to a support group for that.
I mean, to be fair, it's been 5 years, but I still think if I was in that situation, I would still be like catatonic with shock.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
If all my loved ones just vaporized.
just watch
in
my
front of
whole
me.
family
Yeah.
turn into dust.
Which, by the way, about that scene, one other thing that I read that I thought was kind of another maybe cancel the MCU moment is the first LGBTQ plus character was introduced in that support group where he's like, yeah, my boyfriend like vaporized in front of my eyes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't know what to do. So like, what does that say about the MCU that the first time they acknowledge gay people existing is when one of them is vaporized? And then the other one is
Well,
like,
is it Captain America in the support group, right?
yeah, he's like leading the support group.
It's like 1950s guy is just okay with gay people too. Like, come on,
Yeah,
that's not.
There's so many.
There's no way Captain America wasn't in reality hears that and goes, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, get the fuck out of here.
There's so many.
Boyfriend? No, guys date girls. He's like goes off.
There's so
Like,
many.
dude.
There's so many college humor
Pulls down a
sketches.
flow
Yeah.
chart from behind.
There's so
Fucking
many.
canceled Captain America.
There's so many college humor like or like Funny or Die sketches where it's like Captain America waking up and he's just horribly racist and sexist
Right,
and
yeah.
homophobic.
Yeah.
It's so goddamn good. Or like the inverse of that, like when he goes back to be with that girl and he has to now like live his life chronologically from the 40s again, but he now knows everything that's going to happen in modern history. So like the JFK assassination happens and they're like, oh, so you didn't stop this? You knew this was going to happen and you didn't stop this, Captain America? And he's like, listen, it's just gonna like it is what it is. I can't
Gonna
mess
work
with the
itself
timeline
out.
too much.
I
Oh,
was hungover. Lay off.
like,
bitch.
get off my back, bitch! Just slaps her. Like, this is the after credit scene that they cut from Endgame. It wasn't because they were like, oh no, it's the end of an era. We're not going to tease anything upcoming. It's because the Captain America just was finally like, I can just be racist, sexist, and homophobic now. It's the 40s again.
I'm home.
I've been bottling up
finally
for so
home.
long.
Immediately walks outside and starts committing hate crimes. Like heinous hate crime. I haven't been able to do this in 50 years.
Oh man.
boy. which takes us into our first movie,
Exactly.
Porco Rosso.
Takes us right in. Well, honestly, yeah, the loose transition. It happens in the. Wait, no, is Porco Rosso World War One or two? It's World War One,
must
right?
be one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So do we want to talk about Porco Rosso now?
I don't know. Whatever. I was trying to be a jackass.
Well, I'm reaffirming
we can do it however you want.
No, well, now I'm saying you are a jackass, so we're talking about Porco Rosso. No, I'm just kidding. Jake's not a jackass, and we were talking about Porco Rosso. None of that. I was not. I was kidding about all of that.
And Captain America is a racist.
And I was not kidding about the fact that Captain America is a racist. Yeah.
He's most likely a racist.
Very, very most likely a racist. Much like the people who are racist against pigs in Porco Rosso.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Captain America gets back to his girl in the 1940s, and he grabs her by the shoulders. He's like, "People are painting their hair blue. You don't understand.
There's more than two genders. I'm so glad to be back." Jesus Christ. So yeah, again, how this works, we each recommend a movie every month, and then we talk about the movies we recommended. So now's your last chance. Go out and watch these movies if you haven't watched them, or listen to them. I don't know, whatever you want to do. You're only really going to get half the story if you just listen to them, but I stand by what I said. So go watch or listen to them at your heart's content.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, Porco Rosso does become a Nazi. Okay.
So I guess let's start there. The movie Jake recommended was Studio Ghibli's 1992 movie Porco Rosso. Jake, why don't you tell us a little bit about Porco Rosso?
Well, I gotta preface my experience a little bit. I recommended it because I have it and I've never seen it. So I was like, this will encourage me to crack open the Blu-ray and get to it. But I didn't even do that. I went over to your house, Jacob.
You did?
Had multiple... Yeah.
You were here?
Yeah. Walked in your house.
That's what that noise was at like 3 a.m. the other day.
It looks like no one's home. I'm going to drink and watch Porco Rosso. No, we watched like two of these movies, back to back. House LLC and then Porco Rosso. And I got to be honest, I need to watch Porco Rosso again because I was kind of drunk when I was watching it. So it's like I remember some stuff, but I was also laughing and having a good time with y'all. And but I guess to the best of my knowledge, I can explain what Porco Rosso is. It's a Studio Ghibli film, or not film. Jeez, just what would you call this?
A film.
Like a
Some
is
film,
it a film?
yeah.
Still film? Not shot with film though.
I guarantee you it was. It was.
Yeah,
It was in
what
the
do you
90s,
mean?
It was. That's how animation
No,
was done.
they drew on your TV.
Frame by frame,
They
lovingly.
drew it frame by frame on your TV. Okay, so it's a Studio Ghibli film, and it's done by. It's another Miyazaki film. I'm not doing very good with this, but it's about a pilot. His name is Porco Rosso. He's a pig man, and right off the bat, you're like, why is he a pig and everyone else is a human? Well, he was cursed by a witch, and he's like the best pilot around, and he's constantly getting in escapades, and oh boy, it's a wild ride. Take it from there, Jacob.
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay, he's a bounty hunting fucking seaplane pilot, and
Thank
he
you,
was
Rob.
cursed and is a pig. When I first started watching the movie, I just thought he was like a guy who looked like a pig, like just had pig-like features. But then it's fully like, no, he's a pig. He was cursed. They never explain how the fuck he was cursed or what the deal is with
or
that.
what he did to deserve the curse, or if or if he even deserved the curse in the first place.
He was
Right.
most likely such a player with like a woman that she like cursed him when he didn't stick around. That's like what I always assumed. Always, without one time.
That's that's fair. I could get behind that. But at the same time, it's like he juggles two women in the movie, and he doesn't get anywhere with either of them. So
I'm not saying he's juggling either of those. No, let's not. I don't like that.
Well, yeah, the one is
or maybe the reason why he doesn't go anywhere with them is because he's too
one of
worried
them
about.
is 17. 18.
One of them is underage.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Might have something to do with it.
Well, the reason why he doesn't go anywhere with at least one of them then is because he's like, oh, what if she's also a witch and this curse gets even worse? What if I just assumes every single woman that he meets up with could possibly be a witch?
That's somehow more insane.
I didn't realize. I didn't realize that Fio was that the.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that she was underage.
Yeah, she's a
Please
17-year-old
don't.
girl.
Please don't arrest me, Chris.
You're under arrest.
Don't.
Yeah,
I know you have the chat logs in front of you. Please don't read them. I know what I said. You don't need. We don't need to do this.
Even being a drunk guy watching this movie, I knew, she was underage.
Well, to be fair, I was dealing with like a 2nd-degree burn on my hand while
That's
we
true.
were
You fucked
watching.
yourself up pretty bad.
I think Rob is the only one who really paid attention for most of this movie.
Maybe. I watched the 2 other movies for this episode, and then I finished with Porco Rosso, and I gotta say, I had really mixed feelings about Porco Rosso. I like Ghibli films a lot. I can't really think of any examples of Ghibli films that I was disinterested in by any means. This movie just had some moments where I just couldn't be helped to give a shit. And honestly, so it's about a pig man who is a outlaw seaplane bounty hunter in the Mediterranean Sea, and kind of just lives this enigmatic life. He's got a secret hideout on an island, and he's just he's kind of portrayed as just a loner who has a love interest, but I think there is a specific reason why he hasn't given her the love interest the time of day, which we can get into. But throughout the movie, there were a lot of moments where I was just they are really, really going hard on this whole he's a pig thing.
Yeah.
Even just metaphorically, there is a lot of stuff where he's just weirdly sexist at times. There's not a lot of he's very up his own ass about a lot of things and his worldview. He's a pig. He is a pig. There's even a moment where he says to a character, he's like, listen, I might be a pig, but I'm not a fascist. And
Yeah.
it's Jesus fucking Christ.
There was another moment I really liked where I think Fio says something like, "Why are you a pig?" And he goes, "All men are pigs," or something like that.
There's a lot of stuff
there's a lot of really good pig-based humor in Porco Rosso.
This movie is weirdly woke in a lot of ways. There's a lot of weird progressive stuff where it's just 92 Studio Ghibli. Who'd have thunk it? But initially, so I don't want to go too far ahead without explaining a lot of the plot, but in the part of the Mediterranean that Porco operates in, there are these roving gangs of seaplane pirates who just go around and steal from cruise liners and kidnap people,
and they're super wacky. If I took away anything from the movie, they're very wacky criminals.
They are they are the friendliest pirates ever. There's this weird level of in the opening, this group of, and I can't remember any of their names, but the one group that it starts with has a really wacky name, the Mama Cetas or something like that, something to that effect. Just it's very weird. They hijack a cruise ship and steal
a bunch of
gold
girls,
but they also they kidnap a group of schoolgirls, 8 and 9-year-old schoolgirls for ransom. But it's not. It's so they're so friendly about it. They're so friendly.
The one guy is like, "Why did we have to take all 20 of these kids? Why couldn't we have just taken 1 or 2?" And the leader of the gang's like, well, like, we don't want them to be without their friends. What the fuck are you talking
Yeah,
about?
it would be
Like-
mean, it would be mean to split them up is like literally what he says in response. It's just like so weird. And the girls also, there's an understanding where it's like these are goofy pirates because the girls are like, yeah, we're going on a pirate ship. This is so cool and awesome. Like,
I remember Jamie said something about those girls. It was like these are like menaces to society or something.
Yeah,
Like,
because like one of
really.
them was like there was two that were like just tossing around grenades inside the ship, like trying to juggle. And the guy's like, "Don't touch those!" And they're like, "You're mean!" Like,
yeah.
Porco forces the plane to land, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we can go swimming," and they all just jump into the actual ocean, like in the middle of the open sea.
Yeah.
that scared me because I was like, oh shit, they're just like jumping out in there, they're gonna drown, and then they like, I think have
They're
like,
like,
a
"No, we're part of this."
explanation.
Yeah, they're part of
Yeah,
the swimming
part of
club.
the
Yeah.
swim It's like, oh thank God.
I can rest easy.
So that's the introduction to Porco Rosso. He's like a celebrity in the area. When
Well,
He's
he's
got
Ghibli's
this-
Batman.
he's definitely Ghibli's Batman for sure, and
He's voiced by Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
that too.
You would think Hal from Howl's Moving Castle. No,
We didn't
Honestly,
recognize him at
Porco
first.
Rosso.
We didn't.
My-
we didn't
I had to
recognize
look
him at
it up.
first. Yeah, I had to look it up as well because we were trying to
The-
figure out. We were like, why does his voice sound so familiar?
The ADR is weird too for Porco. It's like
is.
it's like Ghibli hadn't figured out how to like do voice lines for a pig and like match it up, even though they've given him a human mouth. And so there's times where Michael Keaton is just speaking and you can't really tell, is this an internal monologue or is he speaking out loud right now? And that kind of threw me a little bit. But in the beginning, I looked it up really quickly and I was like, oh, Michael Keaton, that's really wild, which is something we've talked about on maybe this podcast or the Buttery Mail. I think on the episode with Jamie on the Buttery Mails when
Yeah.
we talked about Ghibli.
Yeah, if you
Studio
guys
Ghibli.
want to go back and listen, we have a whole episode deconstructing most of Studio Ghibli's movies on the Buttery Mails podcast. So go listen to that. But finish this
On
one
that
first.
episode, yeah, finish this one first for sure. On that episode, we talked about it. Like Studio Ghibli is really good about when they bring a movie over to America, being like, we need to get A-list celebrities to like voice these characters to not only draw people in, but it's like it'd be really easy for a Japanese studio to just be like, oh, just hire any fucking idiot who can speak English, like just hire anybody for as cheap as you can. But Studio Ghibli, every time they bring a movie over to America, they go out of their way to be like, no. Let's hire top tier talent to voice these characters that American audiences are going to care about seeing, which I think is part of their success in America is that they go out of their way to find A-list American actors to voice these characters. And Michael Keaton, dude, he nails it as Porco Rosso, weirdly enough.
I at first didn't think that. As I was watching it, I was like he's reading these lines really weird or like not executing them in a way that I was like so satisfied with at first, and then as it like I don't know, I guess I didn't know Porco until later in the film.
No, I think it's a character choice, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
More than anything.
Right.
But yeah, Porco Rosso is a like celebrity bounty hunter in the Mediterranean area. When he shows up in the beginning of the movie to this cruise liner that's been ransacked and the girls have been taken from, everyone on the cruise liner goes like, there's no sense of like dread or like, oh no, our girls have been taken. They're like, yeah, Porco Rosso's here. He's gonna save the day. It's like it's a very weird world they paint in terms of like the way people react to stuff. Like there's not a lot of even like later in the movie, there's like tense moments of like real life kind of drama and like geopolitical drama going on, and people are very like lighthearted about all of it,
Yeah. It's very like
better times.
there's not a there's never really a case of like, oh no, what are we gonna do? It's like, oh well, Porco Rosso's just he'll figure it out.
Yeah,
we can just lay back and finish our
a
mimosas.
hero will rise.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Like anywhere in any situation, like whether on sea or in the air, like people were getting robbed in the streets. They're like, huh, Sport go out? Okay, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
he'll be fine.
We're
Yeah,
good.
he's probably he'll show up. It's just a matter of time.
That guy who stole from me will be dead by the end of the day. Porco will get him.
Yeah, and the other thing is just in terms of like the lightheartedness of the movie, I don't think any single character dies in this movie, and it's a Ghibli film for children for sure, but there's
Ghibli's
even
not
like
been afraid to like kill people off in movies before.
Oh, for sure.
right. That's my point. Is like this movie. I don't think there's a single death in the like not at least.
It's more of like a Ponyo instead of a Princess Mononoke, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
They're-
geared more towards the Ponyo and the Secret Life of Arrietty audience than it is to like the older Ghibli fans.
Still haven't seen that one. Secret Life of Arrietty.
It's okay.
That's
another one that's been a long time since I've seen it, but it's
Is that the Borrowers one about the little people?
yeah.
Yeah, that movie kind of rocks actually.
Mm.
But yeah, even in this movie, like there's after like the first, big thing in the beginning, we're introduced to Porco. He ends up going into town at one point to like his weapons dealer to buy a like new gun for his plane, and he buys a box of bullets with it. And this little kid who like I guess is like the apprentice of the gunsmith.
Fio.
No. This is
okay.
not Fio. The apprentice of the gunsmith in the town that Porco goes to is handing him the bullets, and he's like, hey, we just got these like super cool armor piercing bullets that explode when they hit targets. Do you want those? And Porco's like, dude, no, I'm not a soldier. Like, I'm not trying to kill people.
I just want to embarrass a bunch of pirates because, like,
basically,
because like he in that first instance we talked about where there's all those girls, like he does like a Morse code like light flash signal to them, and he's like, listen, land the plane. Give me the girls back. I'll let you keep half the gold. Like,
right?
Yeah. Porco, like he's so nice.
Yeah, Porco is a very reasonable bounty hunter. It's like, it's less like people don't want to kill him, and more like he's good to work with. He's like he understands us. He gets our plight as sea pirates.
Right, we're two halves of the same coin, like if we didn't exist, he wouldn't exist. Yeah. Classic Batman Joker thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, and there's some geopolitical stuff going on. It seems like within this universe, it's the First World War has happened, and we are on the brink of like a Second World War. So movie is like largely, I hope that goes well.
Yeah, there's some time between like when Porco Rosso is taking place and the Second World War. Like this is
like 20 years or something.
Yeah. There's like a people still be flying planes and shit, but I don't know. Was there any talk of like a war on the verge?
I don't think so. I remember reading I'll look up on the Wikipedia, but I remember reading the wiki, and it was something like at least 10 years before World War II. So it maybe wasn't.
Porco Rosso is set, according to IMDb, in 1930s Italy, a veteran World War
1929, exactly.
Okay.
So a
World
couple
War
years
II
off.
on the brink, and it's set in Italy, and like they talk about how shit is popping off in Italy.
Yeah, you see like Mussolini's secret police, or not Mussolini? Is it Mussolini's at the time?
Yeah,
I know you see like the secret police like coming for him.
The Italian secret police.
But like all the sketchy shit of World War II is like beginning, like at this time. Like,
The other thing, so in the first act of the film, we're introduced to Porco Rosso's like main love interest, this jazz singer named Gina, who runs a restaurant on this little island manor in the middle of this Mediterranean section of the ocean they kind of all reside in. And we're also introduced to what I guess would be like the main antagonist of the film, which is
Curtis.
This American hotshot pilot who has come to Italy to kind of just increase his celebrity.
And fuck.
He
hits on every fucking woman he sees.
He's for sure there to fuck. I mean, that's a big part of it.
That's the thing about Studio Ghibli, is that they're not going to show anybody dying, but they're going to talk about the wild sexcapades of Curtis the pilot.
Yeah, the one American guy is just always trying to get his dick wet, and Curtis is just this American hotshot who won a seaplane race in Italy, beating out the Italian favorite pilot, and now is just kind of traveling around looking to increase his renown, and is hired by these pirates, these seaplane pirates, as a sort of like heavyweight bodyguard type deal, where it's like, we need someone who is, we're not great at what we do. We're just a bunch of dudes in big ass seaplanes trying to steal money. We can't beat Porco Rosso, but you have a good chance of beating him. So they hire him specifically to play that antagonist role to Porco.
Did we mention he's Cary Elwes? Or no?
Yeah, he is Cary Elwes.
Okay. I didn't know if we mentioned that.
That confused us too for a while, but
someone said it, and I could see it.
I couldn't hear it for the longest. I was like, "Are you sure?" And then
you guys were like having more trouble with that than I was.
Even though you were drunk, we were all like, "Really? No!" And you're like, "Yes, it's him!" And you're just like smashing glasses.
I kept screaming. I took 2 beer bottles. I smashed them over your head.
Yeah, it's him. You can't hear that shit.
Don't ever question me about Cary Elwes.
Jamie was why do you have?
Because he's doing like some, he's doing some like southern kind of twang to his thing.
Yeah.
Which I actually really like, and it, weirdly enough, I could see him doing that. I don't know, but
I think that's why I had so much trouble identifying him, because I couldn't see him doing that, because he's a British guy. Or is he? Yeah, he's a British guy. I'm pretty sure.
Is he?
I think he is, because I think he did the whole like House fake American accent for when he was in Saw. He just made his voice really gravelly and more nasally.
I thought he was
Westminster.
Yeah, I think Princess Bride is his like actual speaking voice.
Wow. Okay. That's
this
cool,
bums me out.
We just Christian Bale'd Jake, because I don't know if you guys had that same thing happen to you, but I was convinced for the longest time. I saw Batman Begins and The Dark Knight before I saw The Prestige, and I was like, man, Christian Bale does like a really bad British accent. And then I saw the Academy Awards, and I was like, oh, that's just how we talk.
Hello, Poppet. This award is mine.
Yeah.
That's how all British speak. If you go to
start every sentence with "Hello, Poppet."
Hello, Poppet. We cockney as fuck up here.
But yeah, Cary Elwes was fucking great. Like that one scene that had us in stitches is when the Porco and Fio go back to his like hideout and they get ambushed by all the pirates, and then they're like, Fio's like, no, like you gotta fight him in a plane. You gotta pick your best pilot and have like an air fight with him. Don't just beat him up on the ground. And they're like, yeah, but who are we gonna pick? And then the camera pans up and Curtis is just straddling 2 rocks and presumably has been doing that for the entire like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I like that those pirates like want to kill Porco right then, and then. Yeah, it's Fio. That's her name.
Yeah, Fio
right?
is like,
she just like is like,
honor?
You can't do that. You got to do it this way. And they're like, you know what? she's right. Like
she's right. Like the one
we might be bastards, but we have honor.
Yeah,
some crazy line like that.
The one guy who got his ass handed to him in the beginning who's like wants to kill Porco more than anyone else is the one who has to talk down everyone else. Be like, no, she's right. We may be assholes, but god damn it if we're not honorable assholes.
Yeah, it's something like that where they have like chivalry and honor yet, although they are like sky pirates, basically.
Well, and I have some thoughts on that here. But let's get to who Fio is and everything really quick.
No.
Because, yeah. Okay, so we're introduced to Curtis, and basically what happens is the pirates go on another raid with Curtis that goes to their favor, and their like big message, like, because it's just 1930s world where like pirates can just like broadcast an open message on the news. The pirates, after claiming victory over this like big cruise liner, basically call out Porco on the radio, and they're like, "Hey, we're coming for you. Like, get ready. We're gonna get you." And so Porco decides he's got to take his plane to Italy to get, he's going to Italy to get his plane repaired and lay low. And so he takes off. His plane is already like pretty battered, and he's having a lot of trouble with it. And on his journey to Italy to kind of lay low for a while in Milan and see his engineer, Curtis finds him and runs him down and basically, crashes Porco's plane, thinking that he killed him.
Right.
And Porco ends up getting towed by a tugboat to Italy, gets his plane.
Or he fully should not be.
It is revealed. It's revealed after Curtis finds him and crashes his plane. Porco calls Gina, the jazz lounge singer that is in love with him, and basically just is like, "Hey, I'm okay. Just I didn't want you to think I was dead because you love me, and I don't respect that love." And
essentially,
she reminds him. she reminds him, "Hey, you shouldn't go to Italy."
Look,
what? Can you imagine what?
Can you imagine your crush calling you up and being like, "Hey, you might have heard that like something bad happened to me, but I'm okay. I just wanted to let you know I'm okay because I know you love me, but I fully do not care about that at all. Even though I'm
I don't
calling,
love you. This is gonna drive.
I don't love you, but I am giving you.
I am giving you the heads up because I know it'll hurt you the most to hear me say this.
Right.
That I don't.
Yeah, I'm pulling you along on a string, very far from me, but always in grip.
And I will never let you go. Even though I don't want you.
Man, this must drive you really fucking crazy that an actual pig doesn't reciprocate your love, huh? This must really get under your skin. Just starts like openly antagonizing her, and she
I saw you talk to a nice guy recently, and maybe I like you.
Maybe I like you, but you'll never know because
never know. Might want to stop talking to that guy. I don't know. Maybe it'll work between us.
But yeah, so Gina reminds him he's wanted by the Italian government, that he shouldn't be going to Italy, and very cryptically says to Porco that she will not be attending, or she has no plans on attending another pilot's funeral, which is something that'll come up later.
And he's just like, "Oh, okay, I didn't ask you to. I was calling to say that I'm still alive.
Once again, I don't care.
Alive, and I don't care about you. You're meaningless. You're as good as dirt to me." And
wait, did you call me or did I call you? Because it's really like you called me.
So yeah,
like, I could just hang up on you. You don't have to be an asshole.
Right?
Yeah, but you won't. You won't hang up on me.
Yeah, you won't. Yeah. You're waiting for me to say I love you, still, right?
She ends up hanging up on him because she tells him that. She's like, "Don't be such a pig. Don't go to Italy." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to Italy."
And he's like, "Bitch, I have no choice. That's where my mechanic is.
Yeah.
Did you not hear the part where I was shot down and I'm fucking stranded?
Yeah.
You think I have a choice in this matter?" Yeah.
So yeah, he makes his way to Italy and gets his plane to his mechanic, who is a old Italian gentleman named Piccolo,
Who is insane.
And
Piccolo
it was
is
not a
insane.
green Namekian.
Yeah, he's
no.
not. Yeah, he's just a normal 4'3" Italian man, and
His clothes is as heavy as Piccolo's in Dragon Ball, though. 40 pounds a piece of attire.
right.
Yeah.
And so he gets there and is immediately greeted by the other, as one of you called him, her love interest, but really just it's
Not
such
me.
a bad way of saying
Not
it.
me.
Is introduced to the other female protagonist in the movie, a young American girl named Fio, who's visiting her grandfather Piccolo for an extended period of time and helping with his mechanic
And
shop.
helping him find the Dragon Balls.
Helping him find the Dragon Balls, yes. Yeah, so that's where, the movie really like kind of slows down a little bit, not in a bad way, but Porco is hiding out in Italy. They're repairing his plane, and when he gets there, he gives Piccolo all his money. Basically, he has no money left to repair the plane and to buy a new engine for the plane. And when it's revealed that all of the men in Italy are gone, essentially, that there's like no men left. All the men have gone off looking for work outside of the country.
It's like there's no way that you like bounty hunting's not viable anymore, Porco. Nobody really wants bounty hunters, and he's like, oh well, I guess I'm fucking broke. Like he just kind of accepts that. He's like, yeah, well, I gotta find a new line of work, I guess.
Yeah. So that then it's revealed that Fio will be designing his plane for him, and this is the first instant of real like sexism from the pig man, and Fio is like trying to like plead her case, and Porco just starts packing his money in a bag. He's like, nah, I'll just fucking go somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't need
It's
you.
not happening.
It's not gonna happen for you.
And then then the other thing is in that scene, she asks Porco, she's like, is it because I'm 17 years old or because I'm a girl? And he's like, it's both. And
Yeah, it's
like,
Based Porco.
yeah, based ass Porco. But yeah, and in Italy, Porco goes to a movie theater to meet up with one of his old buddies from the Italian Air Force, where it's kind of revealed that Porco used to fly for the Italian Air Force, but defected and became a bounty hunter, and that's why he's wanted for the crimes against Italy or whatever. And his friend in the Italian Air Force is like, hey man, you could like come fly for us. I got some power now. I know people in high places. We could, if you just come fly for Italy, maybe we can make all this arrest shit go away. Which also, if Porco Rosso was flying for the Italian Air Force during World War II, they would have won. Italy and Germany, the Axis powers, the Axis powers would have absolutely crushed the Allies.
Defeated the Allies without ever having to kill anyone.
Yeah.
He would have just Morse code. Flies over America doing his Morse code, being like, "Listen, you can keep half the gold, but you got to surrender your land. You got to submit to Germany."
Jesus.
And after this, it's revealed that Porco Rosso is being trailed by the Italian secret police, and ultimately he ends up having to flee in the night before they can even do a test flight on his plane. And Fio decides that she's coming with him. And despite how much Porco protests this, he also doesn't outright stop her at any moment. Is just like, basically just being like, Fio, you don't want to do this, but is also helping her like set up an extra seat in the plane for her to come
while he's packing her shit, being like, "You don't want to do this. This
is a bad idea." Now, do you want your bag in this compartment or up in the seat with you? Like, just full on.
Because regardless of where I put it, it's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea. You don't want your luggage on this plane, sweetie. And
now, I'm packing my lunch, your lunch. What do you want? It's a you should not come though. What do you want? I got salami.
You want so they take off. They take off in the middle of the night. They take off from a canal in Italy. And the other thing is they're by taking Fio with him, he's giving Piccolo's family the ability to say, well, he took our granddaughter hostage, so we had to fix his plane for him. So none of them get put in like an Italian gulag or whatever.
Right.
The other Italian ragu, Rob.
An Italian ragu, yeah. Yeah, the Russians had gulags, the Italians had ragus. The other thing is Porco's whole plane in Italy is made by women, which he has some feelings about because again, there are like no men left in the country. And there's this very funny moment where like before they start working on his plane, they make this like big spaghetti feast for all the women and like Porco and Piccolo to eat, you know, and Porco's about to start eating, but then he notices everyone is like, you know, praying, and Piccolo like gives a little, you know, Lord's prayer, like thank you for, you know, the spaghetti on the table and all that stuff. And then at the very end of it, he like looks at Porco and he's like, and dear Lord, please forgive us for building a fighter plane with woman's hands. It's just this really hysterical line. It's so funny to me. It's like that was like the line where I was like, yes, this movie kind of fucks. Like it's, you know, there's some good stuff going on.
They hate women.
Rob,
hell
yeah.
I'm so glad you like took over like for this was my pick. I really like barely remember any of this. Like I came so unprepared, although I watched this movie. Once again, had multiple drinks watching this, just having a great time, just like aesthetically so pleasing.
It's a very fun party movie to have on.
Oh dude, and it's very lighthearted. It's like there's some Ghibli movies that get really intense for almost no reason, and this is one of those movies that like it's got that great 90s like Ghibli art that is like what you just so pleasing, like you said.
Oh yeah.
Every like rolling hill, every shot of just like open blue sky, like it's all so nice to see.
Yeah. I don't mean to take you off track of like, cause you were like leading this perfectly, but like going with the aesthetics, like his hideout like was the most like beautiful little grotto place of all time.
Gorgeous.
Like I wish like I lived there for real.
Not when monsoon
it was
season
just like that's
in.
what heaven looks like.
Yeah, no, really, this is what heaven looks like. I would agree with that. It's just this little like grotto within an island with like a little cavernous like pass to get into it, and yeah, it just looks fucking great.
Gorgeous.
But yeah, so he flees Italy and ends up back in the Mediterranean, and as he's like arriving back, Curtis has snuck into Gina's garden at her restaurant, and she's out there like reading a book or something, and he hands her a letter from Hollywood, as she says. she opens the letter and she's like, oh, it's from Hollywood. It's so fucking silly, but Curtis has written a screenplay and is gonna star in the movie, and Hollywood's gonna produce it, and he's gonna become a big movie star. And then, as he says, after he becomes a big movie star, he's going to become president. And so Curtis basically asks Gina, will you come back to America with me and fall in love with me? And she responds by kind of laughing at him and just being like, your humility is hilarious, because he has none, you know, like it's he's just fully about himself. He doesn't understand how much of a fucking douche he sounds like.
Oh,
and,
yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm charmed by your humility.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I did crack up at that.
It's and then she explains to him that she is in love with someone else, Porco, and that she has this ongoing bet with herself that one day she'll be out in the garden during the daytime.
And Porco will just show up.
Will show up and they'll fall in love, but unfortunately...
She doesn't say Porco. She's like, am I true love or whatever will come get, but it's heavily implied. Heavily implied it's Porco. Yeah.
Well, that's when she breaks the fourth wall, looks at right at us, and goes, "It's the stinky pig.
It's the stinky
pig."
He's stinky.
Well, she says very,
cut to Porco just standing on the edge of the garden, being like, "Yeah, you'd really like it if I stepped into this garden. I wouldn't."
Kind of like hovering his foot over the garden, like I'm not gonna.
He's like, like walks away. He's like, I might get drunk later. Who knows? Never know what could happen when that happens.
A bit of a day drinker.
Everybody loves Porco, but he's just choosing to torment Gina for no reason.
Absolutely, yeah. And Gina does say very specifically, she says, but I'm waiting for this guy to show up in my garden during the day, but unfortunately he only shows up at my restaurant at night to like eat like a pig and drink like a pig. It's the pig. I want to fuck the pig.
I want to fuck the pig, Curtis.
Yeah, that's what she says. And then
in this very kid-friendly Ghibli movie, I want to fuck the pig.
I'm trying to fuck that stinky pig. So after
pig dick, yeah, they say that. It's really weird.
It's kind of awkward. I not really a Ghibli movie I put on for kids.
I want that corkscrew dick,
It really only comes out at this point. Like it was very kid-friendly up until this scene. So
it's the way that like PG-13 movies are allowed one fuck. Ghibli
movies are allowed one scene where they just go fucking wild, wild, you might say.
So yeah, she explains this to Curtis, and then Porco shows up and flies over the garden and does a couple like barrel rolls and corkscrews and
like, haha, I'm not dead, you idiot. You make stories about me.
Yeah, you dumb bitch. Yeah. You stupid bitch. Anyway, so they fly back to they fly back to the hideout.
Yeah, the second half of the movie, by the way, like really picks up and like just becomes kind of crazy language wise.
So yeah, they fly back to the hideout, and Theo is just like, this is heaven. Like literally the way we reacted to it. She's like, this fucking hideout rocks. It's just like there's a beach, big lagoon, like it's just fucking so cool. They get there, and that's when we talked about earlier, they are ambushed by this legion of pirates who want to kill Porco. And when they are like about to, like they've got him, encircled, and they're about to kill him, Gina or Theo like is like, hey, you're not supposed to like act like this. I thought seaplane pilots were like the most honorable people in the world. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And she tells this
the scene that we described earlier, being like, we may be bastards, but we're goddamn it, we're honorable.
Well,
bastards.
she says the only line I actually like hated in the movie was she says, my grandfather used to tell me stories about how seaplane pirates were the most honorable pilots in the whole world. There's no one who had as much honor as seaplane pilots, and it's because every day they take off from the sea and they fly through the sky, and the sea and the sky both purify their hearts. And it's just, it sucks so hard, but it wins the pirates over, who all fall like in love with Theo, but like in a friendly Studio Ghibli love where obviously because she'd never marry any of them, they're just like fawning over her in a friendly manner.
Even though Curtis tries. Even though Curtis,
so
a scene prior professing his love to Gina after he straddles between those two rocks, comes down.
Well, no, you're jumping the gun. So after that, they say, okay, we won't kill the pig. We're just going to destroy the plane. And then she's like, I built that plane, and honor, you have honor. Remember how I just said you have honor? And that's when she comes up with the idea for them to duel him. And that's when Curtis shows up and is like, I'll fucking duel the pig. And even though he's like all gung-ho about it, he's still being like, well, I already beat you once, so why should I do it again? And Theo like catches his eye and he's like, I'll duel you, and if I win, I get to marry this underage girl that's you got hanging around.
Canceled.
Says that line verbatim to Porco.
This
underage girl.
This underage scared child. And well, they're both Americans, so it's fine. And then
yeah, that's right.
And then Theo is like, okay, that's fine. If you win, you can marry me. But if Porco wins, you have to pay all of Porco's debts to me and my grandfather, because Porco still owes her and her grandfather a shitload of money for all the repairs on the plane that he couldn't afford. And so they agree to it. And Porco is just like, why the fuck would you do that, you idiot, you dumb idiot? Like,
once again, the language picks up like crazy.
Yeah.
You stupid bitch. It's wild.
Stupid dumb bitch. Why would you? So yeah, they end up, kind of deciding that this is what they're gonna do. They're gonna go duel Curtis, and that night, as Theo is trying to fall asleep in like a bedroll, Porco is sitting next to her at a table on the beach, kind of like examining his ammunition, like the bullets he's going to use for the duel in the morning, and smoking a cigarette. And when Theo like wakes up because she hears the clanging of like bullet shells, she looks over and she sees Porco, but he is in human form.
Oh, that's right.
He's just handsome as the day is long. He's like the most fuckable seaplane pilot of all time. And she just, she's like, Porco, is that you? And then snaps out of it and just sees he's still a pig, and asks him to tell her a story to fall. After asking him how he got cursed and him refusing to tell her, then she asks him to tell her a story before she goes to bed. And he tells the story wherein he had
Nazis go to heaven.
I forgot about
so this story is wild, because first off, the story starts with he had just gotten done at the ceremony of his best friend who married Gina, the love interest that is like in love with Porco. Mm-hmm. So already it's like, oh shit, the girl that's in love with you was married to your best friend for a moment. That's weird. So apparently like the war had started up again, and so they had to like leave right after the ceremony, and it was supposed to be this like routine surveillance run. And then a bunch of German fighter pilots show up, and there's this big battle in the sky that rages for hours, and all of Porco's, friends die, including the guy who married Gina, which ties back to when Gina says earlier in the movie she's not going to another fighter pilot's funeral. She doesn't want to see Porco die the way that her husband died, right? Mm-hmm. So Porco tells this story, and in it describes this like weird hallucination he has where he like flew into a cloud and his plane started flying itself, and it kind of crests above the clouds and is almost like a boat on the ocean, like just kind of sailing through these clouds. And he sees this band of white light above him, and he can't tell what it is. But then all the fighter pilots who died in this big dogfight around him over the last couple hours, they start rising through the clouds and literally like going to heaven. And heaven for fighter pilots,
band in the sky.
Yeah. Heaven for fighter pilots is this big band, this big trail of planes in the sky, and they zoom in on it and they show millions of planes, like dead fighter pilots in their planes flying above the earth. So that's heaven in this universe, and only fighter pilots get to go there. So if you don't have a plane, how are you gonna, Anyway, so story over, and then the next day is the duel. It's this huge show out where like thousands of people show up to this duel. There's pirates placing bets and just all kinds of crazy shit going on. And
Which it
duel,
looks like a really fun time too. It's just like
it does. It looks great.
It's like a 200-foot wide island in the middle of fucking nowhere. It's just crammed full of people all taking bets on
pirates and aristocrats, and looks great. And right before the duel starts, they have like a weigh-in moment where they show what is being bet on, and so there's Theo there and this big sack of money from Curtis. And right before the duel, the pirate who's leading the whole thing says they should shake hands before the duel, and Porco says, "No thanks, I'd rather not get my hands dirty," and walks off the stage. Which it's such a burn. Yeah. It's such a fucking killer burn. And then Curtis, like,
Porco is the real Sigma male of the Ghibli.
He really
universe.
is. He really is. No, he's blowing off girls who want to fuck him. He's like a day drinking alcoholic who's incredibly skilled in one very specific niche area. Like, yeah, he's fully Sigma'd out. And before the duel starts, after Porco walks off, Curtis walks up to Theo and says, right after I win, we'll go to the church and we'll get married. And don't worry, Theo, like my mom always said, when it comes to marriage, love's got nothing to do with it. And he walks away. And it's just
I remember that line.
It's such a strange moment. So the duel starts, and Curtis is like right off the bat really aggressive, trying to get Porco. Porco is playing things real calm and collected. He ends up getting behind Curtis at a certain point, but he refuses to shoot at Curtis because he doesn't want to kill him. Because as the one pirate says, who's kind of like narrating the whole thing to Theo, he's like, Porco's got too much honor. He doesn't want to kill another pilot. And so this duel just keeps going and going and going until Curtis runs out of ammo, and Porco, his guns jam, and he can't use them. So they
just start throwing shit at each other.
They start throwing.
Doesn't Curtis start shooting?
So Curtis starts shooting a revolver at Porco, and Porco laughs at him. He's like, "You idiot! Like, do you not know how planes work? Like,
the bullets are like curving, like away from."
It's like, you can't hit me with that. And then he does land one bullet on Porco's plane. So Porco throws a wrench, which completely like nails Curtis in the head. And so then they just throw shit at each other in the air. And then they end up landing back at the island to have basically a boxing match.
and I like how that's not even like agreed upon that, like, oh, okay, so if we go into sudden death, then bare knuckle boxing in the ocean. But like, they land and the audience is confused, and then they just start boxing, and they're like, okay, yeah, someone get some stools. That's gonna
bets back on.
Oh my god, we missed like a really kind of key thing, by the way, that leads into where we're going. When Porco's telling Theo that story, and also mentions the curse thing, she says offhandedly, maybe you just need to be kissed by like a beautiful girl or something, and then the curse will be broken. Like, you didn't say that, Rob, right?
Yeah, I remember that. She says something to that effect, and then he's like, yeah.
Something eventually. I'm just gonna say, who knows what it is, but anyway.
So, while they're boxing, while they're bare knuckle boxing in the ocean, Gina is like getting her pilot, her seaplane pilot is waiting to like take her to the fight, and the guy's like, I really don't want to miss this. What's taking her so long? Turns out she's getting like a Morse code message from Porco's friend in Italy that he met with at the movie theater. Yeah. And the message is basically just, hey, the Italian Air Force knows about the duel. They're coming. get the pig out of there, and signs off. And so she runs off like, oh, I hope I'm not too late to go save Porco. So cut back to this fucking boxing match is going like 8 rounds. Yeah. Like they are just beating each other to a fucking pulp, like wrecking each other. And it comes out in the 6th or 7th round. Curtis is like, you stupid pig, you can't have both of these girls. Gina loves you. And Porco's like, no, she doesn't. You're a liar. Why would you say something like that? He's like, I'm not lying. Why would I lie about that? Gina's
my best friend, Porco.
yeah. Basically, we've been through so much together. Why would I lie to you? So that, revealing to Porco in a way.
We're making fun of that. Like, that obviously isn't what is said, but it might as well be. That's how ridiculous this fight is. It's so fucking funny.
Yeah, so it finally like comes to a head where they both knock each other out at the same time, and they both fall into the water, and there's a referee giving a count, and one of the pirates says, which like this makes no sense, but one of the pirates says, whichever one of them gets up first wins. Literally makes no sense.
Well, I think they're just I think so tired at this point.
Yeah, they're just like, coming up with any way to end it, but it's just like the most ridiculous rule to ever.
Whoever spins around 3 times gets.
Well, listen, that's
right,
Rocky. That's Rocky 2 logic. That's how he wins the championship in Rocky 2. Whoever stands up first is the winner of the fight.
Winner, yeah. Well. So as they're like literally unconscious, drowning underwater, and there's this guy giving a count, and they're waiting to see who gets up first. Which, what if neither of them got up? Like,
right?
Yeah. What if they both just drowned in the water right there? Gina, her like
Porco sees another band, but under the ocean of like sea people,
sailors, and submarine pilots. You're just like,
I saw this band.
This is the wrong heaven.
Oh shit!
This is hell.
Yeah, no, exactly. An old sea captain on like the Flying Dutchman is like, this is hell, boy. So Gina like comes up in her seaplane and is I can't remember what she says, but she says something to Porco, and Porco hears it and is just like, huh, Gina. And like gets up and wins, and after he gets up and wins,
and Curtis takes it like a fucking champ too. Curtis is just like, yeah, well, whatever, I'll get him next time. Like you'd think he would be fucking
like,
furious,
I got a Hollywood movie coming.
Like, yeah. Porco's, what does he got? He's got no movie deals on the horizon. He's like, I want to be president one day. It's not like
I'm about to be I'm about to be Studio Ghibli's Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then Gina announces to the crowd that the Italian Air Force is coming and that they all need to, skedaddle. And Jake, do you want to get to the part you were talking about?
Well,
yeah, Jake, do you want to weigh in and give an opinion about the movie that you recommend?
No, like I said,
instead of Rob giving us a play-by-play.
It is a play-by-play, which I actually... Funny enough, I did think about. I'm like, is that what this podcast is? I don't remember.
Not necessarily, but like whatever. I'm not gonna.
I actually really appreciate it because there's, like I said, I watched it. I had too many drinks, and I like as Rob's talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah. Like the whole time as he's doing this, I'm like, yeah, I didn't know. I'm no good for like this recommendation, basically. But oh, here's my big moment. Don't fuck this up, Jake. Don't. You mentioned the thing. Theo said, what if a pretty girl kisses you, then you're good, you're gonna go back to being a man. That happens.
Well, to be fair, we don't know for sure. We don't see his face. All we get is Curtis being like, "Oh, your face," and he's like, "No, leave me alone. I gotta go." Like,
what if he just said, "Your face? It's all beat up from the fight.
It's all beat up from that fight.
You're having an allergic reaction from the kiss.
You're having an allergic reaction to my fists."
it's assumed that Theo was the girl that broke the curse for the Pigman, and yeah, you don't see it because it goes to credits, like Jacob said, but
yeah.
It's
and we do get the little like Theo is being, I forget all exactly what is said in her little ending narration, but she's like, and as for Gina and her wish about the garden, well, that's my little secret. But I think that we all know Porco's like, no, I'm still not going to that fucking garden. That's
the last line of the movie is there's like rumors coming from Germany, something dark is
something dark is on the horizon, and you just hear
Porco, we need you ready
over the charming little like Ghibli like ending like acoustic music that they always do. You just hear like Hitler's speeches fading up
and like then all like sound is cut. All sound is cut, and then someone says to Porco, they're rounding the Jews, Porco, and then it like ends. It's dark.
Yeah,
it's the darkest like Studio Ghibli movie I've ever seen in my life, basically.
But it's a good one. It's wholesome.
It is
wholesome time.
It's like it's not. I really do owe this another watch. But I mean, aesthetically, it's super pleasing. Like any Ghibli movie, you're gonna get that. So I was really happy about that. But yeah, it just felt like the same type of lightheartedness as like Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not like an epic thing is happening. There's just which I do like in its own right. But yeah, it's not that heavy of a Ghibli movie, and it's just fun. It's just supposed to be fun.
Just a bunch of pirates and pigs and people just getting into shenanigans for an hour and a half. There's not anything deeper going on, but that's all you need sometimes.
I love this is just such an aside. I just love in Studio Ghibli movies like when a character is smoking a cigarette at night. Like it's
a vibe
so much.
The whole hotel is that vibe encapsulated, I think. Like the Gina getting up and singing, and everyone has their like little table with their gorgeous fucking anime food on it, and
like that's another thing.
The bottles of wine and the cigarettes. It's like it's such a vibe. It
is such a vibe. It's so good. Once again, I'm really appreciative of like someone grabbing the reins of this. I feel horrible. Like I recommended the movie, and
it's okay. You can give a play-by-play of Sorcerer. Then.
Yeah.
No. Actually, Sorcerer. Funny enough, I remember fucking
crystal
really well
clear.
compared to. I saw that fully sober and was like fucking encapsulated.
Well,
but can we save that one for last? Actually, I feel like
sure, we can do.
Okay.
That. Yeah.
Well, real quick, I would give this movie like a solid 8 out of 10. There were a couple moments that lost me, but it wasn't anything the movie was necessarily doing. It was just like I think I was put off because I expect from so many Ghibli movies this epic fucking tale, this massive, overwhelming thing, and this movie is just like, oh man, it's just a pig in a plane.
He's just a fucking pig.
Just a fucking pig, a fucking seaplane. Just enjoy the ride, you know. So yeah, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
I owe it another watch, but it's not my favorite Studio Ghibli movie, and I would give it regardless because it's Studio Ghibli and they put out nothing but excellence, pretty much. I would say I would agree. 8 is like perfect, I think, for that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really. Again, I saw it once when I was little, and then I saw it again just this past week. So it's not like even still like it's not the one I've seen the most. I'm not the most familiar with it, but it was still. It's like I said, it's a fun party movie to put on. It's like if nothing else, it's entertaining to like just kind of like I feel like we were all at that party that Jake is mentioning. We kind of turned into like that group of pirates just cheering like, yeah, now there's a boxing fight, yeah, like it just felt kind of like that. We were just kind of cheering the movie on, if anything else. If it's good for anything at a minimum, it's good to just have on and bask in like the comedy and the ridiculousness of it, because it is like one of the funnier Ghibli movies I've seen. I don't really remember, because I feel like I laugh at Ghibli movies unintentionally sometimes. Like, there's just some goofy moments that aren't trying to be funny, but I think Porco Rosso is, like, outright trying to be funny in a lot of spots, and it works really well, I think.
There's comedy.
Oh, yeah.
There's legit comedy in it.
Yeah. So, the opposite of comedy is is I guess what the next movie. Well, actually, really quick, yeah, Porco Rosso. If you haven't seen it, you should go out and watch it. I think we all agree 8 out of 10 across the board.
Yeah.
You can see it on Amazon Prime. You can see it on YouTube, Google Play, Apple TV, Vudu, HBO, all that good stuff. Go give it a watch. It's a fun time.
I think HBO has all the Ghibli movies too. So
yeah.
And again,
HBO
if you're familiar with most of the Ghibli library and you want to hear us talk more in depth, I don't remember what episode number it is, but we do have an episode of the Buttery Males podcast where we did a deep dive and we sort of dissect them one by one, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, about pretty much all the Ghibli movies. So yeah.
Just go back and listen to all the Buttery Males until you find that episode.
So you'll come across it eventually. It's
do a re-listen at a certain point then too, just to make sure you found it.
Yeah.
Couple listens probably wouldn't hurt.
So as I said, the opposite of comedy is terror, is horror.
Oh my god, that's scary.
And that is a pretty good descriptor of the movie that I recommended for this episode. One that hopefully Jake wasn't too drunk for and does remember a lot.
That was the first one we watched, so
and then we wound down with Porco Rosso, which I think was a good move. But
genius move.
I recommended House LLC, which is a found footage horror movie that my girlfriend showed me. It was one of the first movies that we actually watched together. We had a sort of back-to-back double date where it was like, well, not necessarily not a double date. It was like, I'm going to show you the scariest movie I have ever seen. You're going to show me the scariest movie you've ever seen. I showed her John Carpenter's The Thing. She showed me Hell House, and I ended up really, really liking Hell House a lot. It's essentially a found footage horror movie about
this summer. The opposite of comedy.
The opposite of comedy. Yeah.
Hell House LLC.
The Hell House is about a group of the haunted house
pilot men.
Pig pilot men, yeah. Like, it's these group of people who run a yearly haunted house, and their gimmick is, like, they travel around and they, like, do a new location every year, and they're, like, trying to find their next big haunted attraction. One of them happens across this, like, abandoned hotel that is supposedly haunted, and they decide, this is where we're gonna have our next haunted house for the October spooky season. And the movie is sort of their footage, like getting the house set up and prepared for to have it run as a haunted house, but then spooky shit starts happening, all the while intercut with interviews that happen much later in the timeline of people talking about the incident that happened on opening night, and you don't really... I mean, you get some stuff at the very beginning, but for the most part, it's just alluding to nobody could have predicted what was going to happen that opening night, and which was very, very different. I felt for a found footage movie, and I really liked that, like, sort of documentary aspect of it to come in at the end and talk about that stuff. So the silence is a little deafening. What did you guys think of the of Hell House?
I was just giving you a chance to kind of give your intro on it.
So, Jake, what do you, I guess, since Rob sort of took the reins with Porco Rosso, what did you think about Hell House?
Well, I did think it's one of the better found footage horror movies I've seen.
I was worried because
I agree.
I was worried because I remember hyping that one up to you in particular a lot, and I was worried that it wasn't going to live up to the hype.
No, it was really good, actually. I remember saying this, and maybe actually I'll save that for the end, talking about the alternative ending there, or alternate ending.
Yeah.
That makes the movie shit, actually, but it's no, this movie is fucking good. It's like pacing is really good. I wasn't really even thinking about those like afterthought interviews, like you know, like later in the timeline until you brought it up. I'm like, oh yeah, like that doesn't happen in Blair Witch Project. Like movies like that. In Blair Witch Project, they have like similar interviews like that, but they're like they're consecutive with like the timeline and the events. Like they talk to people in the town about the Blair Witch before they go see the Blair Witch. Like this is all like afterthought like interviews, and the way people talk about the like event of what happened at Hell House is the scariest part of the movie. Like there's like jump scares in the movie, those are scary, but not knowing the horrible thing that happened exactly it's horrifying. Like there's like an interview with the cameraman or like a photographer for
that's my favorite.
Newspaper?
Yeah, the guy who was like, I was too scared to go to the basement. That guy.
Yeah.
That
he just gets a picture of the stairs, and he's like, I've seen a lot of stuff, but there was something about this that just felt like extra wrong, or whatever he says.
He was like, there's no way I was gonna go down in that basement, even though I was right there. You couldn't have paid me enough to go down there. It's so chilling.
Yeah, never kind of exposing like the horror itself is like just a type of fear that's like primal. You're just like, what is out there? What is in the darkness looking at me? It's I just like this movie did a really good job with that, and I don't know. It's kind of crazy to see how it all culminates. Like, I don't know if we want to do like a play-by-play necessarily, unless you guys want to. But
I think that we're already almost an hour and a half in, so I think maybe we don't do a play-by-play.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like I kind of gave enough of a setup to where like that's all you really need to know of the plot is like, oh, it's just the days leading up to opening night. But there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, there's, and I really don't even, like, I'm not trying to take over this at all, but I like the fact that they give reasoning to why they're filming all the events, you know, but it's like, it's not necessarily a great reason, but like, there is a reason that's like plausible, it's fine. Like, they're just like, oh, we just want to like, you know, record like, you know, how we do things, and like, yeah, the process, exactly. And I don't know, there's like this thing that steadily gets exposed in the film, that this isn't just like a rundown house for any old reason. It's like there's like really tragic, like mysterious events that took place in this house that they're turning into a haunted house. In this house.
I just want to jump in and say this. I don't like found footage movies. I think they're dog shit most of the time. I also usually have a really hard time with found footage movies where it's like, hey, who found the movie? Like, you know, like so many movies that are found footage movies, they never explain like who found the footage. Why am I seeing this right now?
Do you want to know the best example of that is there's this like sidetrack, but you're probably familiar. There's a movie called Apollo 18, which is a found footage horror movie about like what if the rocks on the moon were actually aliens. I don't know if either of you have seen that, but spoiler,
I have seen that movie.
It ends with the both of the ships that the astronauts came in on exploding, and then it just text comes up that's like most of the moon rocks we brought back have disappeared, and I was just like, okay, so the footage obviously burned up in space. So how are we getting this? How did we just see this movie right now? That is a big pet peeve of mine. Is like, well, kind of what Jake said, where it's like, well, how did we find this? But then also, why is this being recorded? And I feel like there's enough like. There's some moments, they give reasoning, and like there's enough plausibility where it's like, okay, these are just dumb like late 20s college bros who just in the mid 2000s who think it's funny to just record everything, like because it's still novel at this point in time, I guess. But
I gotta say, like compared to like last month's horror movies, like I liked House for what it was. I thought Skinamarink was garbage. I usually don't like horror movies. I usually see a horror movie, and the problem I have is it's just like, oh yeah, you're just trying to scare me with any trick you can come up with, and most jump scares and that kind of shit are so cheap that it's not really worth giving any credence to. But I gotta say, man, this is a horror movie I would watch again. Like, I really was. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. At first, I thought I was gonna fucking hate it. Like, right off the bat, I was like, "This sucks ass. Fuck this." Really quickly, they dragged me, back to hell, so to speak. And the only note I really took for this movie, and it's the only critique I have of the movie, which is definitely worth seeing, is they instead of House LLC, they should call this movie Scared Heavy Breathing ASMR 90-minute cut.
Yeah.
It's a lot of just heavy breathing into the microphone.
Specifically from one guy, like the I forget his name. Paul, yeah, from specifically just Paul getting scared out of his fucking mind. And then
this movie is fucking scary. And in the end, honestly, like the last 20 minutes of this movie is legitimately terrifying.
It is scary as fuck.
They kind of bring all the pieces together and give you the reveal that you've been waiting for, and it's like it's 100% worth it. They give you this great reveal, and then they double down and they're like, "You bitches want a second reveal? You guys want to be doubly scared?" Like the ending is really good. I thought this movie was really well made.
Because it's like the one thing I didn't mention again with the whole like chronology, the first real like maybe 15 minutes of the movie is like the sort of aftermath, like people talking about, oh yeah, the what went wrong, and then the movie's like the only two pieces of evidence that we know what happened on opening night is we have this 911 call that like doesn't really say much, but then we have a YouTube video from some people who were on the tour, and you see like weird things happening in the YouTube video. Like you see like one of the actors like running out of his position. You see like some of the staff members running around, and the people part like the visitors are like, oh, is that supposed to happen? That's fucking weird. Like, and so you don't quite get it, but then like as the movie goes on, it like starts to show you like the whole like sequence of events, like why people were running around, like what, like why that guy exactly left his position, where that girl was going when she like ran through the set. Like it's very like it pay, like Rob said, it really pays off on a lot of the setups that it gives. And the other thing that I really like is what Jake said is, yeah, there's jump scares and a lot of the, not a lot of them, but there's some jump scares where it's like, okay, that's like, I saw that coming a mile away. That's a little cheesy. But what I really love about this, that I kind of kept teasing Jake and former guest of the Buttery Mails podcast, Jamie, who does not handle horror movies well at all. What I kind of was teasing them with for most of it was every time there would be like something in the background that was like different, or like you think you see something for a second, they'd be like, wait, was that what I thought? And I'd be like, I don't know, was it? Like, because that's what this movie does really well, is like showing you a fraction of a second of something, and you go, wait a minute, was that like, was that different? Was that like something that I should have noticed? And the movie really does reward you going back and like seeing things that you didn't see the first time. Not to the point where you don't understand the plot if you haven't seen it multiple times, but it gives you that rewarding experience of like, oh, okay, I see this now on the second view. I'm like in on the I'm more in on the experience than I was the first time I watched it, and I really love that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think what's funny is like maybe that should just be what like determines a good horror movie sometimes, just like that, because like Hereditary, one of my favorite horror movies of all time, does that same thing where it's like, is that something in the background? Most likely, yeah. Like, and it's supposed to be really subtle, but it creates this. There's a whole other atmosphere going on now. It's like, oh shit,
right.
I am on the lookout. I'm extra vigilant now. It's really scary. There's like some things we should just talk about with this movie. Like during, the build up to the final day when things happen is obviously it's just like a spooky thing happened here. Oh, spooky things, more spooky things. It's getting extra spooky until finally it's like the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
But like a really kind of prominent scary thing in this movie is the fact that there are like these clown dolls.
Yes, the fucking
like,
clowns.
they're not supposed to move, obviously, and their heads especially aren't supposed to be able to look in any other direction besides forward.
Literally just like stuffed mannequins that like you can like if you think like Barbie doll movements where like you can bend their limbs and you can like put them into different positions, but they're not capable of moving on their own. Like is the point?
Yeah, and so a big thing is that their heads aren't supposed to move. They're just supposed to be like staring straight ahead, and they like you just can't turn them, but they keep finding them in different places, and like sometimes even in the same moment where they find them in a different place, like they like pan the camera away or they look away and then they look back and the head is like totally facing them, like looking right at them, and like I think the first big time it happens is like one of the camera guy thinks it's like a guy in the clown suit because he's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, you know, you fucking with me here?" And then and then he like leaves the room and he goes into another room to find that guy who he thought it was in the clown suit, and he's like, "Yo, what the fuck? How?" And he like runs back to where that clown was, and the clown's gone. It's back in the basement where it's like supposed to be, like in the position it was supposed to be. Yeah. That was a pretty big scare. Like that was fucked up.
Oh yeah, man.
And what I love about it is a lesser horror movie would have just ended that scene there. They would have just been like, "Oh, that was creepy." Anyway, on to the next scene. But like the guy's like, no, check the footage. I have it on camera. I have this whole thing recorded, and you see like the POV of all the people like watching his tape. And then reacting like, whoa, how did that clown move? Like, you see them all scared in the moment, like, whoa, like, how did that just happen? And
but then they just write it off as Paul, the camera guy, fucking with them.
Which they would, which makes sense. Well, they're trying to rationalize the, like, okay, this is clearly, like, he's trying to fuck with us, like...
There's two things I want to talk about. One before the other, which is there's this scene where Alex, the main guy kind of in charge of everything, who's been coming up with rational explanations for all the spooky stuff that's happened. One of the other guys is talking to them and they're like, How do you explain this, Alex? Like, what? And Alex is like,
I haven't figured that out yet.
I haven't figured it out yet. And it's like, you're not gonna figure it out. There's nothing. It's such a great like horror movie line where it's like, oh yeah, man, you trying to add logic to this right now? Not helping. Like, you're not gonna solve this, like, you know. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is, so Paul wakes up in the middle of the night multiple times and does these like almost like talking head interview confessional things with himself in his room and just laying on the bed. And a couple creepy things happen while he's doing that. But the final time that happens, he like goes
really quick. That scene in particular, my girlfriend, she had seen it like 2 or 3 times before showing it to me. And this was a huge point of pride for me, but she was like, I cannot watch that scene. I refuse to. I don't even know what happens in that scene. I can't watch it. And then the first time we watched it together, she was like gripping my arm, like getting ready to like duck behind me. She was trying to like brave her way through that scene to see what happened. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. I'm protecting her from Hell House. Like,
so Paul wakes up in the middle of the night. He left the camera on when he fell asleep. When he turns the light on in the room, you can see that there's like a body of a dead girl in the corner of his room, and he doesn't notice it right away until he like picks the camera up to walk out of his room, and he sees it and he freaks out and he hides under the covers of his bed, and he's breathing really heavy for like 10 seconds. Then he finally calms himself down enough to like peek under the covers to see what's happening, and the girl like lunges at him, this like dead bloody girl. And the only issue I have with this entire movie is the fact that he caught all of that on camera and they had looked at raw footage before in the movie, and this is Paul disappears for 2 days after this, and in that entire 2 days they never look at the footage footage of the camera, which would have clearly shown them what happened to Paul and would have probably led them to all leave the scary fucking house.
Yeah. It's
the only issue I have with the movie.
There's some like weird shit that I don't totally know what's going on. There's like a scene towards the end of the movie. It's like the day before the event that happened, and where the one guy, I think it's like Tony or something, he starts filming after Paul, and he freaks out at something. He goes to leave, and he gets like a talking to in the field,
Mac,
and you like miss the conversation.
That is explained in the second movie.
In the second movie.
In Hell House 2.
You watched Hell House 2?
No, I watched a 40-minute YouTube explanation of the second and the third movie. And in the second movie, I'm just gonna say the second and third movie don't waste your time. They're not good. From what I can tell, they're really bad.
All you need is the first one. Yeah.
Can I guess? Can I guess what the conversation was?
Yeah, go for it.
And tell me if I'm right or wrong. Is this some they all became in on some desperate plan to gain riches through a sacrifice of some kind, and the guy is it's all gonna pay off, we're gonna be rich or something?
No.
What is that? What is it?
It's just Alex, the main guy, just blew a lot of money, and they need this to work out, or the company goes bankrupt. And the only person he confided in is, I think, Tony
Mac
is the guy. Mac, yeah. The only guy he told it, because they're childhood best friends. And so when that one dude is contemplating leaving, that conversation that there's an audio glitch and you can't hear.
Yeah.
Or presumably he turned off the camera to be I don't want there to be evidence that I spilled
whatever.
The beans.
That is him just being hey man, Alex is in an extreme amount of debt, and if this year doesn't go off, if we abandon him right now, this whole Hell House thing comes to an end, and his life is ruined. Financially ruined. Yeah.
Okay, but isn't Alex he's practically as possessed as his girlfriend or whatever?
Well,
I don't think Alex was ever possessed. I think he was just this has to work out desperate. Or else. Yeah, I think he for sure.
Doesn't he have a notebook that's full of weird symbols and shit he drew?
Well, there's another thing in that second movie where it turns out, remember in the beginning of this movie, Alex acts like he's not been to the hotel before.
Right.
But in the second movie, there's a flashback, or not even a flashback. It's security camera footage of Alex in this hotel talking to someone about renting the hotel and turning it into a haunted house. And Alex is I don't know, man. It's, it doesn't, I don't know if this is a good idea or not. And whoever he's talking to, which it's heavily implied is the ghost of the previous owner, that Andrew Tully guy. Is explaining to him no, man, it's great. The place is all run down. Half the work is done for you, which is something Alex says in this movie, verbatim. So they show Alex getting convinced in the second movie by a off-camera person that he can have the house, he can have the hotel for free and do his thing here, and talks him into it. And I gotta say, man, so the second and third movie suck ass from what I can tell. And the other thing that you wouldn't be able to tell going into this movie, because this movie feels like such a one-off experience. Apparently the writer and director of it wrote it as a trilogy. It was always supposed to be a trilogy. So there are a couple things in this movie that tie back in the scripts of the second and the third movie. And it's not good. I mean,
I think the exact opposite. This movie really, 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 really works well as a one-off, where just there's there's a lot of stuff that isn't explained. I know I get that you're not being contrarian. I'm disagreeing with the people who like, no, this has to be a trilogy. I think that a big issue I have with a lot of horror movies is the need to explain everything and be like, this is exactly why this place is haunted. This is what is haunting the place.
It's the second movie, they explain everything.
Yeah, like, I love so much that that I have to be like, well, why did this happen? Like, trying to
exactly.
Like, it makes it more scary. Jake said, like, the less you can explain, the more frightening it is. Like,
for sure, that's like half of horror, basically. Like,
can you imagine if there was a Hereditary 2?
Oh, I'd fucking hate that. Where it shows like what he does now.
Yeah,
like, Eamon has to get a job still. Like, right, what the fuck? Like, I don't care. Yeah, it's either like, so there's like, you know, two kind of schools of horror. There's like the ambiguous, and then there's pretty much like the, like, here's like murder porn.
Yeah.
It's like, murder porn doesn't scare me. I'm just like grossed out. Like, I can watch it. I'm not like into it, but it's like, okay, if someone wants to show gore in a horror movie, that's fine. Like, it's not the thing scaring me though. Like, if you like show someone getting hacked up, that's not scary. But if you show, like, if you don't show it and you hear what's happening, like someone getting hacked up and it's like you don't know how, or like, and it just sounds vicious, that's scarier. That's definitely more that's gonna hit me more.
You hear someone getting their computer hacked into.
Oh my god,
and then
fucking freak out. Stop!
That's actually
bypassing firewalls.
Speaking of computers, that was like, as long as Rob's talking about his one gripe that he has with Hell House, my one major and really only gripe that I have with this movie is that
your computer wasn't working.
That my computer wasn't working properly during it. Yeah, no, it's that they don't utilize the security system that they mention numerous times. Like, they never use that as a vehicle to like have scares. Like, they clearly have this like big monitor hidden behind a wall that shows all of their like security cameras that they have set up for opening night to make sure everything runs smoothly, but there's never a time where they utilize like, oh, the camera in the kitchen isn't working, well, we should go check that out, and then some weird shit happens in the kitchen, or like the following is an unexplained event that happened between 2 and 3 a.m. That was caught by the security. Like, they never do that, and I feel like there's a lot of potential there for moments like that.
Yeah,
but
I agree. That would have been good to utilize.
But
booting up.
No!
But otherwise, Hell House is a fantastic horror movie. I really, really like it. If we want, I know because we alluded to it earlier, do we want to talk about the shitty extra 6 seconds that ruins the the experience?
Like we had just said, like, when you show the thing, it's not as scary, and they show the thing. They show what happens in the last.
Really, really quick, like, I do want to say again, like, I've said it several times already, but if you have not seen these movies and you are interested in seeing them, stop listening to this, go watch it, because, like, I care enough about Hell House to where I do care if this gets spoiled. So if you have not seen the ending, please go watch the movie and then come back and listen to this next part. Yeah, like I said, the whole time it's just building up to, like, oh yeah, this thing that happened in the basement, like, nobody really knows. The only person who was down there, he killed himself a few days after we tried to interview him. And the only clue we get about what happened in the basement is the 911 call at the beginning, where some freaked out lady says, "Oh my God, there's something at Hell House," and there's like garbled, and then we get into the wall. "Oh my God, you need to help her," and like that's all we get. That's the only clue we get about what happened in the basement, and then at the very end, you see like why the clown guy started to run away is these like huge hooded cloaked figures appear, and they start to like surround one of the actresses who's like chained up to a wall near a pentagram. And
pentagrams were there before they got the house, by the way.
Yeah, like again, like, oh my God, half the work's done for us already, we don't need to do it. Like and so you see them like sort of surround the girl, and then the people who are like holding the camera, like the visitors who don't know that this is just part of that who think this is just part of the show at this point. They're like, oh my god, this is really scary, and then the cloaked figures start to attack the visitors, and then that's what prompts like, oh my god, they start to run out, but the person recording, the visitor who's recording this, drops their camera. And all you see is like a couple seconds of like this actress who has now presumably been killed, and her body is sort of like levitating in the middle of this pentagram. And that's all that we know about what happens in the basement in the theatrical cut of the film. And I really like that.
People start like freaking out and running away as this guy appears. It's really crazy.
It gives you enough of an idea, but it still does not fully answer the question of what happened in there. You're able to sort of like, okay, I can kind of use my like context clues and sort of figure out what I think happened, but it does not give you a concrete like, yes, this is definitively what happened. And then in the director's cut, they decide to add an extra 6 seconds where the camera drops and the girl is not T-posing in the middle of this pentagram. Her body is laying on the pentagram. The floor explodes. You hear a demonic growl and fire coming up out of a pit, and her body gets pulled into the earth. And it's just... I think it truly is movie ruining. There's not a lot of movies for me that like there's really the only other movie I can really think of that has like a second or two that ruins the whole experience is Arrival, when Jeremy Renner's like, you want to have a baby right at the very end. Like, but the Hell House is like, truly, like, you take out that extra 6 seconds of like a demon coming up out of the ground and pulling her body into the earth. You just cut that out, and the movie goes from a piece of shit to amazing. I agree. And it pisses me off that the extra 6 seconds is that, well, it makes me upset because I feel like the director doesn't understand the gold that they had to the, like, you know what I mean, like the fact that they felt like we have to add this and then this is what makes it scarier. Like, no, the ambiguity and the audience having to piece this shit together on its own is what makes this so horrifying. You just being like, oh no, the fucking Pazuzu came out of the ground and took this woman down to hell. Like, no, that's not the scary aspect of it. Like, okay,
right.
So, sorry, that's my rant about the end of the director's cut of Hell House. So please, if you're going to watch this, make sure it's not the director's cut. Make sure you're watching the theatrical cut. Sorry, Jake, you were saying.
Did you show your girlfriend the end? Alternate ending? Because I remember, like, I had not seen it yet, and I had only heard about that, and she was like, I don't think they do that. And I was like, I heard they did talk about it, but I have not. I don't know. I figured she would like actually care to see that too.
I'll show her it today and then I'll report back. But I think that her opinion will be very much the same as mine. Again, like there's parts of the movie that she loves this movie, and there's still like one or two parts to this day that she refuses to watch because it scares her so much. I think very much she would agree with me about like the ambiguity is what makes this movie so good.
Yep. Yeah. If I had to rate this movie, I'm gonna put it in, a horror movie scale context. I'd give it an 8. Give it an 8, just like Porco Rosso.
Yeah. That's
just as scary as Porco Rosso, just as
horrifying as Porco Rosso. I don't know who cursed him, and it scares me to think about it.
Yeah,
I'd agree with an 8. Again, I don't like horror movies, so as far as horror movies go,
that's high praise coming from Rob.
Yeah, I would normally give a horror movie like a 1 or a 2 out of 10. So yeah, this again, man, I'd watch this movie a couple more times for sure. Like I really I liked it a lot, and even knowing all the shit that happens in the second and third movie, just don't watch them for real. Don't watch them. Yeah.
I can't wait until I recommend another horror movie at the end of this one, and Rob just fully loses his mind.
I'd love for you to not. I'd love for there to be just normal movies to be recommended would be great.
So yeah, House LLC, I love it. One of my favorite horror movies ever. I would go a little higher. I'd say 9 out of 10. Like I said, there's just a couple things that I wish they did differently. Like there's, I think, some scares that they didn't utilize that I wish they did. There's some moments where like, okay, well, why is this being recorded? But I don't know. It still is very, very good, and it's a really underrated horror movie. Also, I mentioned the last episode, shot about an hour away from where Jake and I live, and it operates as an actual haunted house in the fall season. So if you want to actually go there and do like a walkthrough of the actual Hell House, you can.
Isn't it like rumored to actually be haunted as well?
The exact same background that the like Alex and Tony and all that get in the movie is what the actual background is in real life. This was a hotel for a while, and then some weird things happen, and we think it's still haunted, but now we run this like yearly haunted house out of it. It's the exact same background as
now we just don't give a fuck. Yeah. We just don't care about these damn spirits.
Wait, did people really go missing? Like,
I don't know the full background. I just know that like the people who own the building say, "Yep, it is haunted, and we allow people to come in for Halloween every year." So,
what?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
I'm planning on taking my girlfriend and I there at some point this fall, and I'll report back if I get possessed or killed or something.
Jacob, were you possessed?
I'm like, no, I'm not. I swear.
Okay. You sound possessed.
Yeah. So yeah.
Check out this cool hotel.
Check out stand in this cool pentagram. It's awesome.
It's you can check out Hell House for free on Amazon Prime, on Tubi, Roku, Vudu, Plex. That's all free. You can also rent it on YouTube and Google Play and Apple TV. So definitely go check it out. So speaking of the occult, which is kind of related to magic, which you might also say is related to sorcery, which doesn't happen in this last movie at all. So it's a very misleading title. Yeah.
Let's understand, nitroglycerin is made from sorcery.
Magic, yeah.
We get to the movie that Rob recommended, 1977's Sorcerer. So, Jake, since Rob stole your movie, why don't you break down Sorcerer for us?
No. Rob, please take the reins. I love this movie.
This movie rocks, man. It's so this is a movie starring Roy Scheider and a couple really good actors who I don't know that I've really seen in much other than this movie. And this may also be my favorite Roy Scheider movie. Even more, like, people are always like, Jaws, he's great in Jaws. He's better in this movie.
Jaws sucks.
Yeah, I don't think Jaws is very good myself, but like Roy Scheider.
Okay.
What the okay, anyway. Roy Scheider kills it in this movie, and the movie is about 4 different individuals who all come from very different circumstances across the globe. This is a bit of a globetrotter. It starts off with a man in South America who is just like a hitman. You get very little backstory on him, but his story in the beginning is just that he kills a guy and flees from wherever he killed that guy. You also have a freedom fighter in Jerusalem who is accused pretty clearly did it of bombing. Terrorism, bombing a building in Jerusalem. You have a French man who is, I guess the running thing is that all these guys are guilty of the crimes that they are accused of committing. This French man who has married his way into like a very wealthy older French family that runs a financial firm in Paris and is guilty of committing some pretty heinous financial crimes, and in an effort to try to get out of it, gets his brother-in-law killed. And then the final man, Roy Scheider, is just like a run-of-the-mill New Jersey mafioso type, like just pulling scores and
getting licks.
Yeah, straight out of a Michael Mann movie, truly. Roy Schreider just is a guy who's involved in a robbery on a church that goes wrong, and even though he didn't, one of his partners shoots a priest in the leg, and even though Roy Schreider is the only one who survived and is not the guy who shot the priest in the leg, the mafia wants to kill him. So all 4 of these men in very precarious circumstance all flee to South America to a like extremely jungle bound, not a lot of connections to the outside world kind of community, other than a oil refinery, like an oil well that the townsfolk work at. It's like the only real piece of modernity in this this kind of weird socialist South American hellscape that they all find themselves hiding in. And they're all just, trying to kind of get by, they're all in hiding. So obviously conditions are not going to be great. And ultimately the oil well is victimized by a group of terrorists. I don't know if victimized is the right word, but it's blown up by a group of terrorists. And the only
turn the oil rig into a victim.
Yeah. They victimized this poor oil rig. Jeez. This poor innocent oil rig that did nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong.
So yeah, the oil
We're
rig.
pro oil here.
The oil well gets sabotaged by a local militia, and the oil well is on fire. And if you know anything about oil wells, or you've seen There Will Be Blood, which shows a very good example of this, when an oil well is on fire, it's going to burn until that oil is all gone. And that could go on for fucking decades. So the only way to cap off an oil well fire is with TNT. You have to create a larger explosion
to suck up all the air. The
explosion creates like a vacuum effect. That
you suffocate.
It sucks all the air out and suffocates the fire. So the only TNT that is available to this oil company has been sitting for years in this like backwoods storage house. No one has like kept proper care of it. So it's still highly volatile and explosive, but it's extremely dangerous to transport now. And that's where our 4 heroes come into play and are offered the chance to drive these 2 big rig trucks across the jungle to deliver the dynamite, because no one else is willing to do it. And because
one's willing and no one can, because no one's used to driving like carefully at all.
Yeah.
if ever.
Even
no
if they
used to
were
driving.
Even if they were the most careful drivers the world has ever seen, like they would still have a rough go of it. Like my whole because they spend a solid 5-minute scene explaining like logistically like this is the only way that we can do it, and it's still we can't fly it because the vibration of the helicopter is gonna cause it to blow up. We can't so the only way we can do it is we have to load it into these trucks and weigh it down with all this sand so it doesn't jostle around, and then just have people go real fucking slow and careful 200 fucking miles through the middle of the rainforest.
It's they're fully expected to die. Like that's why there's 2 trucks. Like they're one of you for sure isn't gonna make it. Like there's no doubt. But if you do make it, you have a chance of getting out of this hellhole if you wanted to. Right now, the situation that they're in is they would just have to live in this place forever because there's no way of getting out. Like you never make enough money to save up anything.
Yeah.
So,
right.
It's like an escape.
And even if they could leave, a lot of them, it's like their options are so limited that it's like, well, what else do we have to lose?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
This movie is like one of the most hardcore movies of all.
It's fucking full throttle right out the gate. It's so awesome.
For me,
practical effects are fucking bonkers.
The scene
I was
on
telling
the
Rob.
bridge.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just saying, like the like again, late 70s, all of this shit is actually happening. So when they're driving, so when they're driving these like shitty like scrap metal cars across like a rotted out hanging wooden bridge that is held together by like old fucking rope and just logs that are wedged against one another really tightly, it's fucking, they're really doing it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I told
that's
Rob,
all I
like,
wanted to say. It's just, yeah.
When I was watching this, I was like, can you imagine if they made a movie like this nowadays? Like, how many fucking, like, lawsuits there would be?
Oh,
because there's a scene, the scene that made me think that, like, there's a whole bunch of crazy practical effects even before this scene, but this was the one that, like, I just could not stop thinking about. After the initial, like, oil rig explosion, or, like, the fire starts, like, a bunch of people die in this, and they bring back the dead bodies to the village to like give them to their families and the people that, you know, would be care about these people that died. The people start like going crazy, like they're so upset with this company because this happened, and like it just like kind of like an uproar happens where the people start fighting against these guys with guns, and the whole village goes just like crazy. Everyone's fighting one another, and there's like people with guns who I think work for the company trying to like control the situation, and it turns into them like shooting people. But there's a scene where like it's going all crazy, and there's a dude on a horse. This is all real. Dude's really on a horse, and people are freaking out, screaming around this animal, this real animal that doesn't know how to act and doesn't know that this is fake, and like pulls this man off of the horse, and it's freaking out. And like I was like, they could have all been killed by getting kicked in the head by the horse, or the horse could have stomped on that man. And like, just the fact that it happened at all like that, I was like, what the fuck? Like,
this is a movie, a great example of like American film companies just going into like extremely impoverished third world countries and just being like, we're gonna shoot a film here. Every villager has a chance to earn 50 cents a day. I know
so
that's 10 times what you normally make in a day. So this movie fucking kicks ass. I mean,
it's so good.
The quote on the Blu-ray copy that Brennan has is the toughest, most relentless American film in a long time. And it truly is. Like, it's
facts.
The big thing I say to people is like, if you don't like movies where characters have plot armor and you can tell what's going to happen, this movie is fully for you, because this is a movie where like at any moment any of your main characters might die. There is zero plot armor. Like this movie holds nothing back. And I have a couple notes, but like the one note I wrote down watching it again yesterday was this movie must have been made under the influence of some strange drug that they don't make anymore, because this movie makes no sense, and yet it makes like the most sense of any movie ever made. It's a complete paradox, and I can't imagine the shit that you would have to be on to create something like this.
Yeah, I was trying to explain to like a coworker this movie, and it sounded boring the way I was putting it, and I'm like, no, it's fucking badass. Like the whole thing, it's like, so they're driving like a truck around, and I'm like, no, it's fucking awesome. Shut up.
They're driving two trucks actually, and
no, it's two, and shut up.
We mentioned it earlier. There's a bridge sequence which is on the cover, is the original like poster of this movie, is this bridge sequence, and it's one of the most intense things ever filmed, in my opinion. Like driving these
like Joe Rogan there. I'm sorry.
Wild. Yeah. They're driving these like probably 10-ton trucks across this destroyed narrow rope bridge that's got to be like at least 100 yards long, over a raging river in like monsoon downpour rain and wind. And the first group, Roy Schreider and his like kind of co-pilot, they get through it like kind of okay, but they fuck the bridge up on their way through. And so when they speed out of there, Roy Schreider's like, they're not going to make it. They can't make it past that. We're sitting on double shares, man. Like we're going to get all the money. They're never going to cross that bridge. And then the other two come through, and it is just this harrowing experience of watching the bridge slowly falling apart around them. One of them is on the bridge guiding the other while he's driving. The guy who's in front guiding the truck at one point falls through the bridge into the water. You don't know what happened to him. He climbs back up onto the bridge and almost gets run over by the truck. It's like,
he can't see him because it's like this monsoon is going on. He's like, I can't see you. Where are you? Like,
and this guy's trying to climb out of the water, just screaming, "Stop!" And then they get through that, and it's like, oh, phew, And then like a bunch of like trees and shit that got swept away in the floods comes and hits the bridge.
My God, I forgot about that.
Crushes the guy, and then. After all that, they're still not across the bridge, and they start showing shots of like the supports of the bridge falling apart, and it's like that sequence ends on a cliffhanger, and you jump back to Roy Schreider dealing with some other bullshit, and while they're dealing with this other bullshit, the other two guys just walk out of the jungle out of nowhere, having made it, and the look on Roy Schreider's face is like, I can't fucking believe you two idiots made it across that bridge, like. Dude, it's insane. The whole movie, it rocks. There's so much great stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
The opening 40 minutes is a little all over the place, I'm not gonna lie, but not without reason. Like when I first watched it, I was struggling a little bit to be like, what is going on here? And then you kind of get after like the second guy is introduced, you're like, oh, we're just getting the backstory out of the way. We're just getting it done so we don't have to deal with it while there's other stuff happening, and it's great, man. I the only other thing I want to mention is the movie. No one really understands the title of the movie. Doesn't make a lot of sense,
including me.
So, okay,
Rob?
I did not look into it. I did not Google or do any
Jake,
of that stuff.
This is the
thing.
That's
good podcasting.
Well, yeah. Jake, here's the thing: is that you don't understand. But in the second and third movie, they really get into the backstory about why it's called Sorcerer, and
exactly.
Well, I think it's called Sorcerer because this movie's magic, baby.
Yeah,
that's not wrong. But
not at
all. Yesterday, I did notice two things that I just want to bring up. There is this moment before they go on this long drive where they have a really cool montage of them rebuilding these trucks, because after they pick these four guys to do the drive, they have to go into a scrapyard and actually build two trucks. It's like this oil company doesn't even have like the trucks to give them to do it. They have to like build trucks from scrap themselves. And so you get a really cool montage of just men at work doing mechanical shit, which is really great. So in that scene, and the only reason I noticed the follow-up to this is because of what I noticed here. In that scene, Roy Schreider, in one of the montage cuts, is repainting the words on the truck that have been kind of like scratched off by time and whatever, like have worn off. And the word he paints on there is Lazaro or Lazaro.
Yeah.
When you translate Lazaro to English, it translates to Lazarus.
I knew that. Fuck.
And
okay.
Lazarus, if you don't know, is the follower of Jesus that Jesus raised from the dead. So Roy Schreider is literally Jesus, like raising this truck from the dead to accomplish his journey across the desert, so to speak. But the me noticing that made me think, I wonder what's painted on the other truck. And I was looking the whole time trying to see, like, is there anything painted on the other truck to get a name for the other truck? The other truck, the truck driven by the Frenchman and the guy from Jerusalem, is painted Sorcerer on one of the side panels. And so that's the only example of the word sorcerer in the whole movie. And so I have to I have to come to the conclusion that the truck that the Frenchman drives is the titular sorcerer. I don't know. There's no other reason to think like anything else is the sorcerer. Like it's literally written on it. So
It seems like one of those things where they might have like just not been able to think of a cool title for the movie, like, and had that and was just like, yeah, just fuck it. That sounds cool. Let's just do that.
Yeah,
we'll use
sorcerer.
that.
Yeah,
Fuck it. We gotta compete. Listen, we're competing against Star Wars right now. We gotta get anyone in. So, like, we gotta steal as many seats as possible. Which that was the one thing that bummed me out. Is I did some reading, and it's like apparently this didn't do so well because everyone was going to go see Star Wars, and I was like,
that
could
sucks.
you imagine?
I love Star Wars, of course, but geez,
the
man,
alternate universe where this becomes the big franchise and people forget about Star Wars.
Here we go. Friedkin, who I guess is the writer or maybe director.
He's the writer-director, William Friedkin.
He said the title refers to fate as the ultimate sorcerer in our lives.
Okay. All right. Once again, I'm sticking with what I say.
Yeah.
But also, and then on the Wikipedia, it talks about what I talked about, which is the title refers to one of the trucks, which is painted Sorcerer, and the other truck painted Lazaro.
Okay.
The narrative features no explanation.
I want to talk about a part in this movie that I fucking loved was when you get to a certain point after that crazy bridge sequence, and there's a massive tree in the middle of the road that just seems like they're just fucked. They can't go any further. And it's Roy Scheider like freaking the fuck out, like trying to be a madman and cut through like just so much dense tree. Amazon forest. It's like, dude, you've lost your mind.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And then the Israeli guy kind of takes a look at everything. He sizes it up, and he's like, I can do this.
Yeah.
It's such a great moment.
Yeah. Puts together a contraption. That scene was really great because I was like, I had no idea how the fuck he was going to do that at all. And then as he, like, put it together, like, even towards the last little bit of it coming together, I'm like, what's he doing? And then gets like out a bit of the nitroglycerin, and I was like, "Oh, okay." He is They're going to try and explode this thing. But that's a fucking amazing scene. That was a genius fucking scene, man. He has like a counterweight that's a bag of sands, and he like.
I just enjoyed watching them put it together because I was like,
same.
They have nothing. Like, how are they gonna like get this? Like, how are they gonna rig this so it drops, but they also get away in time? And then like you said, Jake, like watching them put it together is just something else.
It's fucking awesome, and I like putting it together. I like seeing as it's happening. It's like this timed kind of like dropping like a weight on top of it. I don't know what you would call that contraption. It's some sort of like MacGyver fucking. There, but it was fucking awesome, and it's really intense seeing like everyone hide because it's gonna be a big explosion, but you don't know how big. It has to be big enough to destroy this like fucking 1,000-ton like this tree is massive. It's like a redwood, like it's not a redwood, obviously, because that doesn't grow there.
The French guy says what kind of tree it is. I can't remember what it is.
He says it's a big tree. We have these in France. No, he doesn't.
No, he says the name. He says the name of it, and then he says good wood. We're not getting through it. So
the Israeli guy's like, "Fuck you, asshole."
And the Israeli guy's like, "Well, if we're not getting through it, it's not good wood, you fucking prick." And then they just have a fist fight right there.
Yeah,
the Israeli guy pulls out a gun and is like, "I win this fight."
That's not gonna work against sorcery.
How wild! Like they all just turn out to be sorcerers and have a magic fight.
Quickly, we have to focus our powers onto the tree. I like this movie a lot because it's just for moments like that, I feel the same way about the truck rebuilding montage, where it's like in any modern movie, a writer is just going to be like, and they fix the truck, or or you write a scene where it's like the guy who's like, I can clear it, just tells everyone to go hide, and then there's just an explosion a couple seconds later, and then he's like, I did it. This movie.
How'd you do it? You don't want to know.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to know. Like, yeah, dude, this movie is just straight up like, nah, man, we're gonna show you everything these fuckers do. It's gonna be intense the whole way through. That scene where they have to handle the nitroglycerin up onto the tree, and they're being so careful to take it out of the box, and even as everyone's running away, the Israeli guy is sharpening this little stick, and you're like, what the fuck is he gonna do with that? And he uses that to poke a hole ever so gently into this container of nitroglycerin,
so as to not accidentally explode it himself before he can get out of there. Yeah,
it's like these men are all like kind of geniuses. It's wild. Like this movie's like should be titled Men at Work. Like this movie is fast. Men doing good work, and they're all engineers.
Men just getting the fucking thing done.
This is how men once were. Like, nowadays, cut to a fucking what happened? I don't know, man. But I got it to work.
Yeah, I made it happen.
Yeah, that scene of like the Israeli guy running away, and then it finally explodes. The tree is fucking epic. And like more towards the end of the movie, there's like another scene. I don't know if we want to work our way to the ending and everything, but there's a favorite scene I have at the end where it's like it's shot with like a night filter, I think, through like some place in South America that looks like it's an alien planet for real. It has to be some sort of like mining area or like a quarry area or something, but it's unreal, and it's basically like Roy Scheider like losing his mind like in this place that doesn't seem like it's on Earth anymore,
which like
although it is
the stress of like a lot of times when like people lose their mind in these older like 70 movies, I'm like, okay, like, but really you're this is what's making you freak out. But like the stress of this situation I completely was like, yeah, man, I'm right there with you. This is so fucking stressful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's not just like it's the thing they're doing. Like, so they're doing this impossible thing of carrying this like extremely fragile like explosive substance 200 miles through the thick of the like Amazon rainforest, or like just a rainforest in general, where you're not meant to drive a truck through these things. All the other problems that we just mentioned. Then there's like, like third party, like just people existing who are like dangerous out there, who are like trying to stop you and kill you.
Other sorcerers.
Other sorcerers coming out, blasting lightning bolts at this. It's fucking insane.
The ending of this movie really is. This movie's like painful almost. Like when I first watched it, I told some of my buddies at work about it, and I was like, "This is just such a like unrelenting movie. Like it's just mean to you from the jump. It doesn't. It's almost like it doesn't like that you're watching it." And so it's like triggering you, and my favorite character is the French guy. I think he's just, I relate to him on a lot of different levels, and I just love him.
Yeah,
you kind of look like the French guy a little bit.
I look exactly like him too, and I speak French like him too. So he and the Israeli man, they meet a tragic end after clearing the tree, where the French guy is talking about, Paris and his wife who he left behind, and he shows. I
was gonna say that was my only one of my not only, but like that was my biggest critique like of this movie is as soon as that scene starts to happen, I was like, oh, this isn't gonna go well. Like they're sharing their backstories. This is not
exactly. Oh, they're becoming friends, and yeah. No, dude, it sucks because he shows the Israeli guy the watch that his wife gives him in the beginning of the movie that says like it's like 10 years together out of infinity or some shit like that, and shows him the watch. And one of the most heartbreaking, like this line literally haunts me, is he grabs the watch back from the Israeli guy and he says, with a smile on his face, he says, "It's 5 minutes to 9 in Paris." And then the tire of the truck blows out and they go careening off of a ridge. And when they hit the ground, they explode. And it's just, it's such a heartbreaker. Like it's such a heartbreaking moment where it's like, he's just like missing his wife. He's just missing the love of his life. And he's finally got a moment to like breathe easy about his predicament and, confide in a friend like about what's going on with him. And so that happens, and then immediately after, Roy Scheider and the guy he's driving with, who we didn't really get into his story at all, he's the assassin from the beginning of the movie. They drive back to see what happened, which it's like, what happened. You don't need to drive back right now, but they drive back to check out what happened to the other guys, and the explosion has attracted some unwanted attention, and a militia shows up, and
that's what I meant by third party, like people with guns coming out.
They show up to steal the truck, and ultimately the assassin ends up killing 3 of them, and Roy Scheider kills the 4th. But the assassin is deeply wounded, and in that scene you mentioned where he's on this like alien landscape, which I think it's like a salt flat of some kind. Right. I'm not really sure. But it definitely it's like, it really does look alien. And the assassin like dies while they're talking about what they're going to do with all the money. And the assassin's like, Roy Scheider's like, "What are you going to do with all that money?" And the assassin's like, "I'm going to get laid." And he's like, "Hell yeah, brother. We're both going to get laid. Two of the best whores of Managua." And,
he's trying to like comfort this guy in his final moments because he knows there's no way in fucking hell there's gonna be a way to save this guy.
Right. Yeah.
Like even if they could, like, the hospital just doesn't exist around them.
Yeah. So he, he dies, and you can't, when he dies, it's like, oh fuck, how long has Roy Scheider been talking to a dead body? It's like heavily implied that he has no idea when this guy died. But he stops to take the body out of the truck, and when he gets back in the truck won't start. And he's got 13 miles left to make it to the oil well. So in his like just complete like, frustration with the moment, he carries one of these boxes of nitroglycerin 13 miles all the way to the oil well. And again, I talked about, Roy Scheider being Jesus and having his walk through the desert moment. Carrying a box of highly explosive nitroglycerin 13 miles. I mean, Jesus ain't got nothing on that, as far as I'm concerned.
They say Jesus was like, for 40 days tempted by the devil in that desert. That was the nitroglycerin in this scenario.
Right.
Just being like, hey, throw me to the ground. Yeah. Like, you want to die, right?
This is gonna be over. So which that brings us to the end of the movie where they pay Roy Scheider everyone's shares, so he gets like 40 grand, which in the 1970s was probably like $80 billion.
Well, actually, here, I'll do the math really quick because they said 8,000 pesos per person in 1977.
So I looked it up. One peso used to be worth $1 back then.
In 77, so it was $8,000 per person. So 8,000 in 77 versus today.
They sign him over a check for $40,000 at the end of the movie. And they give him citizenship, but
then I'm trying to figure out today though, it's $200,000 today, $40,000 in 77
billion dollars, probably.
It's close enough. 8 billion, 200,000. Yeah, it is what it is.
Right before the movie wraps, and Roy Scheider is dancing with this woman who works at like the cafe bar, who they've been at a bunch of them. It's like the only like place to get alcohol in the village. It's like the only spot, you know, for the young kids to hang out and smoke cigarettes and drink, and tag walls. He asked this like older woman to dance, which when I watched that yesterday, it was it's a weird moment, but when he asks this older Hispanic woman to dance before he goes to this plane to like fly off into the sunset with his money, I just like couldn't help but like, you know, in my head hear Roy Scheider like whispering in her ear like, I've been trying to fuck you ever since I got down to this godforsaken place.
I wanted to talk to you for so long. I finally gained the courage to. You're so beautiful.
Yeah. It's such a weird moment. But in that moment, as they're sharing this final dance before he flies off into the sunset, the mob family that wants to kill him from his, you know, robbing that church in the beginning of the movie, they show up at the village and walk into the bar where he's dancing, and it, you know, you can assume that there isn't going to be like a friendly exchange between the two parties.
You hear a gunshot.
Yeah.
Oh, do you? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, the gunshot was just to get his attention, though. That's just like, hey,
Right,
look over here.
Yeah.
You did a great
Hey, we
job.
gotta talk. But yeah,
We're gonna
so
take you home.
it's a bummer, man. Like the whole movie is just
the thing is that director William Friedkin is a big fan of just like of downer endings like that. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen The French Connection, but this was that's another William Friedkin movie that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He made this. It was back to back. He made The French Connection, then he made The Exorcist, then he made this. So
Interesting.
he was coming off of like a trilogy of I can do whatever the fuck I want.
I can hurt whoever I want, and no, I'm God, and no one can stop me.
I'm the sorcerer after all.
Right? Yeah.
But he's a big fan of like of making you think everything is gonna work out just fine, and then in the last couple seconds being like, nope, everything was fucked the whole time. Like I won't spoil The French Connection if either of you haven't seen it, but it's a very similar ending where it's like, oh, well, fuck, like right at the end.
I'll put it this way: the connection isn't quite connected.
It's more of a Chinese connection than a French connection.
Yeah, that's what it turns out to be.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
The only other thing I want to say about this movie narratively that doesn't make sense is there's got to be like there's got to be more nitroglycerin in this country, right? Like it's the idea that this is the only TNT in this whole country is crazy to me.
Yeah,
Right?
it is crazy to me as well, especially if it's like the perimeter is like in a 200-mile range, right?
Yeah.
So it is kind of wild. Yeah.
Like you gotta think that there's like someone's gotta have it in better condition than this. Like, come on.
Just people being cheap might be what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's like,
they're like, all the nitroglycerin in this country is bad. This is just the closest to the oil well.
Yeah.
It's it's a really good one. I love The French Connection. I love The Exorcist. William Friedkin is one of those names that gets tossed around a lot in terms of like, oh yeah, great filmmaker, but this is one that I hadn't heard of, and I'm glad that I watched it because it's really fucking good. It's slept on.
I might have to check out the rest of his catalog because I've never seen The French Connection. I've seen The Exorcist, and I do think it's still scary to this day. I think it's pretty fucking good.
French Connection's good. I actually, now that you've said that, I can like see the similarities of like filmmaking. You know, it makes sense to me.
No, dude, listen, when Brennan bought this movie on his Vudu, and he apparently, like, the day after watching it, texted me right away and was like, you have to watch this movie. It's like right up your alley. You're gonna love it. And it's called Sorcerer. And I was like, Sorcerer, what is it about? And he was like, it has nothing to do with magic. And I was like, oh,
and
okay,
like that, you've lost me.
yeah. I was like, oh, because originally I was like, oh yeah, a movie called Sorcerer. I like medieval fantasy stuff for sure. And then it's like, I looked it up and I saw the image of the truck on the bridge, and I sent it to him.
It's a harrowing image too.
Like, yeah, I was like, you're talking about this movie? And he was like, yeah, man, watch it as soon as you can. And he was not wrong, dude. This movie fucking slaps. It's great.
This is not really I think it's time that we rebrand. This is not the Watchlist Podcast anymore. This is the Brennan's Voodoo Podcast. Because like every single movie that we've watched has been helping a lot. Brennan's Voodoo. Yeah.
I'm gonna do it again for.
He's got a good thing going there, and thank God I have access to that.
We're not gonna have him on as a guest. We're just fully gonna abuse his voodoo.
Fuck that guy. Just to be plain and simple. No, I'm just kidding. I love Brennan. This movie fucking slaps. I'm so happy. I had both you, Rob, and Brennan in my ear, just being like, this movie kicks ass. Gotta watch this. I have it on my Vudu. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll check it out. And then was not let down one bit. I fucking love this movie. If I was to give this a score, I would give it a 9 out of 10, and I think that's I'd watch it. That's really good for me. I think that's a fucking amazing movie.
I give it a 7 out of 10 only because I was really bored with the vignettes and like Rob said, the first 40 minutes. I was like, okay, let's just get to the let's get to the meat of the.
You were bored by that.
I was. I thought it was.
Holy shit.
I thought that a lot of them could have been cut down significantly. Like, I think if they were all like around the same time as the assassin guy or the fucking, what's his name, Nassim, the terrorist guy. I think if all of them
freedom fighter,
the freedom fighter. I think if you took that
pro-Israel on this podcast,
if you took that first 40 minutes and you cut it down to like maybe the first 15-20 minutes, I feel like I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But I still love this movie a lot. Everything from when the oil rig catches on fire to the end is excellent. I just think the first 40 minutes kind of drags for me, but it's a very, very good movie after that.
Oh, that's a fair critique, and for me this is like a 10 out of 10 movie. And I gotta say, on my second watch, and this happens to me with a lot of movies, the second watch on a movie that I have complicated feelings on, usually the second watch is just like I am able to work all those feelings out really quickly. And
it's either this is shit viewing or this is a masterpiece viewing.
Yeah, exactly. And that first viewing, I really was torn on just that first 40 minutes and, not really giving a shit about it as much. And the second watch yesterday was just like, it's
guys,
perfect.
I gotta be honest, I thought that first 40 minutes was fucking awesome and fast as shit when I watched it. I really liked it.
When I tell people to watch it, I'm just like, get through that first 40 minutes. If you don't like the first 40 minutes, just don't even think about it. But like, yeah, I do think all the backstory is really good. If anything, I wish they gave more backstory to the assassin.
He's like a weasel who kind of works his way into the job in the itself.
We didn't really talk about it, but the assassin character has a very complicated, unexplained thing going on the whole movie. Like he's the only guy who's hiding there who still has money. There's no real reason for him to want to be involved in this job. Like he's a very confusing character. I just wish there was a better explanation as to what was his purpose in this whole thing. And but otherwise, yeah, dude, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. Like I for any complaint I could make about this movie just slaps back and it's just like, nah, man, there's nothing wrong here. Just watch it and enjoy.
Right.
Yeah. It's very good. I personally did not enjoy that first 40 minutes, but I think that it's an excellent movie regardless. I think everyone should still see it.
Yeah.
Let's check out Sorcerer on Brennan's Voodoo account. No, you can watch
we'll be tweeting out the login information.
You can.
Oh yeah.
This episode.
You can rent it on Prime, Apple TV, and Vudu. It's very good. Like I said, just the slept-on William Friedkin movie. Everyone talks about The French Connection and The Exorcist, but yeah, Sorcerer is very, very good. Sorry, Jay, you sound like you had one other thing you wanted to say. I cut you off.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I did not.
Okay. Well then, so that's the 3 movies we talked about for this episode. Thank you guys for listening, but now we got to give you your homework for next month. We're gonna give you our film recommendations for the movies we'll be talking about next episode. So again, you have until the first Monday of May to go watch these movies, which is Monday, May 1st. You got the next 3-4 weeks. We got 4 weeks from today to go watch them. So we're about to give out your homework assignment. Take notes. Who wants to give out their recommendation first?
I'll go first. I haven't seen this movie in years, but I remember when I saw it the first time, I really, really liked it, and I think I just owe it a rewatch. And I kind of hope you guys haven't seen it. Jeremiah Johnson. You ever seen this
I've
movie?
heard of it. I know it's the
I've heard of it.
It's that gif of like that mountain man
Yeah.
slow zoom in nodding. I know that.
It's Robert Redford, and I remember it kicking ass. It's just like a guy who's on the western frontier, kind of by himself, while there's like still Native Americans present, and he's tasked to take people through an area where you just don't go, and it really kicks ass. So I'll recommend Jeremiah Johnson.
I am excited. I know of that movie, but I have not seen it yet. I'm looking forward to now having to watch it.
Yep, it's good.
Rob, what are you gonna recommend people go out and watch?
I'm gonna throw a curveball at you guys and pick a bit of a horror movie this week.
Ooh,
I know.
interesting.
What?
Rob, you said you don't like doing that.
I know. I don't like it though. This is one of those ones that just weirdly I like. I think it's very good, and I rewatched it recently, and I'd love to talk with you guys about it. I think you guys have probably seen it, but that's okay. I'm gonna choose Midsommar.
Okay.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, I saw it first day it came out in theaters.
All right.
Yeah, I saw the like director's special artsy edition with Brennan at like an art house theater in Philly before seeing just the theatrical version. And
I haven't seen that version.
Yeah, it's a spooky fucking movie, man, and yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys about it.
Cool.
Yeah, very, very good. We've talked about. I think I had to think about it a second. I thought that we had not like the 3 of us, but I thought this was a recommendation prior on the watch list, but it's not. So I'm surprised it took us this long to get to it.
Oh, good.
So
we would have had to delete that other episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I was this whole I was not really sure what movie I was gonna recommend going into this one. I was this whole time
I forgot we had to do it until like 15 minutes ago. I was like, oh shit, I gotta get a movie.
This whole time we were talking, I wrote out a list of like, what are some possible things I could recommend, and this whole episode I was kind of like scrolling through that list trying to figure like, okay, well what do I actually really want to talk about, and I think I've settled on a good one. I haven't talked about this one at length before, but I definitely mentioned it once or twice in earlier episodes. I would assume that neither of you have seen this, because I think this is a very slept-on movie. It came out in 2018 called Widows. It's a crime.
No, I've never.
It's a crime thriller by Steve McQueen. I kind of think of it as like it's very Scorsese-esque, and that's why I think I want to recommend it to you guys, because I know you both love a Scorsese flick. But
The Irishman.
It's not real. I think that it's very, very good. It's essentially Liam Neeson and John Bernthal, and like one or two other guys that aren't. I don't think they're as well known. They're essentially a group of bank robbers who all get killed on a $2 million heist, and then the respective like crime bosses come to Liam Neeson's widow and is like, your husband stole this money from us, and you have 2 days to get it back to us, or else we're gonna come and get you.
Shitty.
And so it's like, it's Viola Davis is his widow, Michelle Rodriguez.
This fucking movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Michelle Rodriguez, Cynthia Erivo, Elizabeth Debicki. It's like basically the widows of all these bank robbers come together and are like, we need to fix the shit that our husbands got us into. And there's a bunch of other ins and outs of like corrupt like politics, like stealing from these politics. It's an all-star cast. You got Robert Duvall, I said,
love me Duvall,
Liam Neeson, Viola Davis, fucking what's his name? I'm blanking on it. Colin Farrell, he's in it. It's an all-star cast. And I think it's a very slept-on movie. I the reason why it came to my attention is I think it was a Red Letter Media video where they joked about like, yeah, Ghostbusters 2016 is the feminist anthem we need. Let's forget about this awesome movie where these women come together to pull off a bank robbery, and it's a well-made, competent movie. Let's talk about Ghostbusters 2016. Like, it's but yeah, Widow. Yeah,
God.
2018's Widows. It's I like it a lot, and I wish more people knew about it. So now I'm gonna make you guys know about it as well.
I'm excited. That's a big part of excitement about this podcast is every now and then I see a movie I've already seen, and that's fine. But then you guys like push, House LLC and Sorcerer, and I'm like, oh fuck, these are fucking awesome. I'm glad I had to watch these in a sense. It's really dope. So.
Yeah.
I think it's really dope for the audience as well.
You know me, man. I fucking hate women, but I'll watch it, I guess.
Jesus Christ.
Kidding.
And one other thing to mention, but we may have some guests coming up down the pipeline, so get excited for that, everybody. We're gonna have
I'm not into that.
Not into that. Maybe
another fucking guest season. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It worked out for the buttery milk. It's all my fault.
Yeah. So again, for next episode comes out the 1st of May. You guys have a couple of weeks to check it out. Check these 3 movies out: Jeremiah Johnson, Midsommar, and Widows.
Midsommar.
Midsommar. Or no, sorry, Midsommar.
Midsommar. Yeah.
We had a.
You can just bark and growl. Actually,
right,
as that
title. So check out Jeremiah Johnson, Widows, and.
That's ridiculous.
Midsommar, yeah. That's your homework for the 1st of May. So yeah, thank you guys for listening to the Watchlist Podcast. If you enjoyed this, you can listen to about 26 or 7 other episodes where I talk to some of them where I talk to Jake and Rob, some of them where I talk to other people about movies we've seen. Seasons get a little confusing. The show rebranded, but whatever. It's all movie talk on this podcast, all talking about some great movies that I feel like more people should be talking about. If you absolutely cannot wait the full month to hear the 3 of us talk again, we have a weekly podcast called the Buttery Males Podcast, which I'm assuming you already know about that if you're listening to this, where it's just the 3 of us shooting the shit for an hour at a time every single Monday, and it's a good time. We have fun.
Better know about it.
Check out our Discord. The Watchlist Podcast also has a Discord. I'm going to try and revive. We joked about that a little bit earlier, but I'm going to try and get that back up and running again.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't heard of the Buttery Males, like, you probably have been living under a rock or something.
You probably haven't even heard of, like, sliced bread or any other.
Right. You're basically some goddamn idiot who's... You're struggling.
So yeah, check us out on that podcast. You go to our Instagram, the Buttery Mails Pod, or my Instagram, jacob.boyer.media, for the link trees to find all of our relevant links and information where you can find us and listen to more of us if you absolutely cannot get enough of hearing us talk. So thank you guys very much for listening, and we will see you next month.
All right.
Don't trust the feds.